Hello, this is Jimbo from the YouTube channel Jimbo, South Dakota, and this is the Hog House Chronicles podcast. And I'm here in the Hog House with three special young ladies. So we're going away from the military theme for this one. We want to expand our horizons. And we have Sarah, Finley, and Kiara here, and they are part of the Canton, South Dakota girls wrestling team. That was pretty successful. And we've got their fathers over on the side here, and Coach Jeremy Ask, and we're going to have some segments with them as well. We're just going to start off with you guys. I'm really anxious to learn about your experience because when I was young and I was on the wrestling team, I mean, it wasn't even thought of having girls, and then it started moving into a few girls wanting to get on the teams and do some wrestling, and then it's morphed itself into full-up high school girls teams and then also college, and we'll be talking about some of that. So why don't you just go ahead and start here, Sarah? You can just tell whatever you guys each want to about yourself and, like, how did you get interested in wrestling and about what age you were?
My name's Sarah. I just graduated from Canton, and I started wrestling my freshman year because that's the year it got sanctioned.
Oh.
And I don't know, me and my friend Rachel, we saw that it was going to be sanctioned, and we decided we want to do it. And yeah, I never looked back since. It's just fun.
You loved it right away?
Yeah.
Nice. How about you, Finley?
I'm Finley. I'm going into 8th grade this coming fall, and I started wrestling in 2nd grade because my dad got my brother to try it, and I got bored.
Because you were there watching all the time, watching your brother?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you've told me that before. I think we were talking maybe at the tournament or something shortly after. So, all right, Kiara, how about you?
I'm Kiara King. I graduated from Canton High School, and it was my freshman year, and I absolutely did not want to go out for basketball anymore. And I had to sit and beg my grandma to let me go out for wrestling. And then I did, and then I loved it the first year. Wasn't a fan of the 6 a.m. practice very much, but it grew on me. Mm-hmm. And then we moved to after school, and I was a little upset about it because then I couldn't go hang out with friends. And so we sat and begged Coach Ask, and we got like every single day was 6 a.m. except for like Wednesday, I believe. And then, yeah, but I'm not doing wrestling in college, though. I'm going for nursing.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'd love to wrestle more. Don't get me wrong. I might come back and help coach, but I'm not doing it in college.
Yeah. So did any other family members wrestle that maybe helped get you interested? I guess you said your brother was, but your brother's younger, right?
Yeah, my brother is going into 5th grade.
Okay.
He's tried it in kindergarten.
All right. Did your dad wrestle at all?
I think he wrestled when he was in like middle school, but then he went out for basketball.
Okay. All right. We'll learn more about him as we go to some of the next segments here. How about you?
My parents did not wrestle. My dad played football and basketball.
Okay. How about you, Kiara?
I kind of got my little sister into it, but like my older cousin he's a wrestler for like his whole life. And then I kind of thought it was cool. I was like, oh, I want to go throw some girls around. So I joined, and it was good. It was good.
So how many of you on your team went to the state tournament this year?
All 12.
It was all 12. Oh, okay. Yeah, because we've been trying to get this scheduled for a few months here, and then I'd forgotten that all 12 of you had made it, because that's the first state wrestling tournament I'd been to in decades. I just didn't make my way there to watch it, but then at church here, I go to the same church as these two here, and started talking to Luke and stuff, and rejuvenated my interest in it. So it was pretty amazing being there at the state wrestling tournament, seeing guys and gals on the individual teams going at it. So
It was chaotic.
So it didn't sound like any of you had any apprehensions about starting wrestling. Not at all.
No.
How about after the first practice or two?
I don't think I really had apprehensions, but I remember, like, one practice, I think I got, like, double-legged, and I hit my head, and I felt really dizzy, but then I learned that was kind of just, like, normal. But the first time it was done to me...
TBIs are normal. Do you hear that, Coach?
The first time it was done to me, I was like, that kind of hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But
How about any apprehensions over there with you two?
I mean, not really. I started my first year off in Brandon Valley, so I already knew Mike Walker when he came here.
Oh, okay.
I remember doing a lot of push-ups and wall sits, but it was fun.
Mm-hmm. How about you?
I didn't have any the first 2 years. That's about it. But I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. So did any of you wrestle like when you were little kids, like AAU tournaments or anything?
Oh, yeah.
So you had quite a few years of experience before high
Yeah,
school?
they let me practice with them when I was in 6th grade because I was like the only person my size in the youth room, and I was pretty advanced, so they let me come along. And so I already knew the girls by 7th grade, but I had to wrestle all AAU and stuff. So I wrestled AAU for the first 4 or 5 years. It's pretty fun.
Was it always girls wrestling girls back then, or is that
No.
long ago enough where it was definitely a mix of girls and boys?
Well, when I started, it was lucky to have a girl in your bracket. It was like a treat. And I did win a couple tournaments. I was getting pretty good at it. But, the only time I really wrestled all girls was state, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was different. I enjoyed a lot more wrestling girls, but the boys definitely helped me.
Yeah, I could see that. And what was your first couple days or weeks worth of practice like?
I don't know. I just really enjoy the pain, I guess. Other than cross country, nothing had ever pushed me that hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoyed it.
I could tell that, and I saw some fierceness. You all had some fierceness for sure, but there was a couple times where somebody pushed you around just a little bit on the state mat. I remember, and it just seemed like your face just went more stone cold, and you just went after that person. I think you were going for a single leg or something like that, but the shot was pretty quick, and that was pretty impressive. So, how about you guys as well? I guess with using wrestling AAU, you didn't have a first experience on practice or anything really then.
No, just youth practice. And I mean, I would go to Legends of Gold pretty much every day except Friday. So I mostly went there, went to the youth practices, and then when it's wrestling season, it's wrestling season. It's like a full-time devotion thing.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Did you have any apprehensions with your first week's worth of practice, or did you just go in there and kick butt right away?
Well, I kind of joined I think it was the second week of practice because I quit basketball and I was I still had to sit and beg my grandma to let me go out for wrestling, but not really. I hated it in the moment. I hated running. I'm not a runner, so that's something that I absolutely despise of doing. And then I was kind of down on myself at first because everybody knew what they were doing. Everybody knew more than me, warm-ups and stuff. Even the shooting part of warm-ups. I was like, what are you guys doing? I looked like a deer in headlights. I had no idea what I was doing. And then after a couple weeks, Coach Ask and Carly Laubach started working with me, and I was like, oh, this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And then eventually I caught on, and it was better, but I think it was more just the mentality of me thinking I don't know what I'm doing. But I think that was the toughest part of practice.
Mm-hmm. I think self-doubt is one of the biggest parts of all sports, really. And when you've got dedicated coaches and parents and teammates, you can get caught up as you saw. So, what was your experience like on your very first match?
I believe my very first match was against the Spencer state champ.
Oh, really?
And I was absolutely terrified. And I was like, oh, yeah, she's tough. She's tough. And then I didn't win that one. And then I went off and wrestled. Maybe she wasn't my first match. Maybe there was, but I do remember telling her that she was my first match. And then me and her became friends and But I do remember winning the next match that I wrestled, and I was ecstatic. I was like, yeah, that's what it's.
On that one you lost, did you get pinned or just lose by points?
I got pinned.
Got pinned. What period?
First, maybe
First
like
period.
the first 20 seconds.
Hey, yeah, I think we've all been there. Most of us have been there at one time or another. So, how about your first varsity match? What did that feel like? What happened?
My first varsity match in Spencer, I was really nervous because I didn't know, like, what to expect. But I just went out there and I tech faulted her. I think I shot like one single leg, but it was pretty terrible. I'm mostly defensive. So, I mean, I just tech faulted her and I felt pretty good. And I was super excited to keep going after that because, I mean, I didn't know what to expect. But after I got it over with, I realized this was going to be a really fun year.
Mm-hmm. I like that smile I'm seeing there, too. You probably had that smile that same day, I bet.
Yeah, probably.
How about you, Sarah? What was your experience with the first varsity match you're on the mat and everybody's watching?
I remember it was at Canton, and I really thought I was going to win. I wrestled Regina Stosher, and I think it was like 5-1, but I remember being really disappointed. And my record that year was not very good. I don't think I won a match until like middle of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my first pin. It was at like a January tournament, and I was so happy because everybody else was pinning girls, and I wasn't.
Just took a little bit.
Yeah.
So why did you think you were going to win that first one?
I don't know.
Was she more experienced, less experienced?
I didn't know anything about her. I went in there confident, I guess.
Nice. That's what I was hoping to hear.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at. Did any of you have to cut weight much for, careers so far? I mean, you guys are done with the high school. You're getting started on high school, but did you have to cut weight?
During high school, I usually didn't have to cut a ton unless I wasn't smart about it. And then I just had a fast, 3-pound cut that always sucked. But out of season, I remember one time I had to cut 8 pounds, and that was not fun.
No, you don't have a whole lot extra to lose with your stature, so 8 pounds is a lot. Mm-hmm. Finley, I doubt that you've done much dieting.
Well, I mean, it was mostly during wrestling season. It's mostly chicken and rice. But I mean, no, it wasn't too bad. I'm pretty gradual about it. I just I eat the same amount, but I only eat I don't eat a bunch of snacks.
Mm-hmm.
I mostly just eat meals like chicken and rice and stuff.
Yeah. That's actually a good plan for the rest of our lives to be able to eat that way.
So I never had much trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah. How about you, Kiara?
No.
I
Never.
remember talking to my my wrestling coach. I worked in the kitchen so I could get free meals, and a buddy of mine and I worked in there and stuff. But I just talked to the coach one day because he walked by once when I was taking in people's lunch trays, and if there's somebody that I trusted that came in, I loved those mincemeat sandwiches back in the late 70s. And if I was still hungry, I'd take one off the guy's plate and eat it before I threw the rest in. My coach walked right by when I was shoving a sandwich in my face, and he just looks at me and he just smiled, walked by. But we had the conversation that I had told him that I was going to wrestle at full strength or not at all. Now, I would have had to eat my words if I couldn't make the varsity team saying something like that, but I did, But so I had one time where I had to do the 3-pound cut in one day in the morning and then to wrestle that night. That was pretty tough. But I like to see it when young people can be in the weight that they're comfortable with and not really pound yourself too much with weight loss, being at a young age. I think there's only a certain amount of that can be healthy. But how about injuries? Kiara, do you have any injuries through your career? Anything that really held you back at all?
I hurt my knee playing softball my sophomore year, and it kind of would bite me a little bit here and there. And I just remember it was I think it was my state tournament my junior year, I believe. it was my final match, and it was against Sierra McFarland, and she rammed my shoulder into the mat so bad, and I literally was crying in front of thousands of people, and I was like, "Ugh, get me out of here." So that was it was a whole humbling experience. But other than that, I guess not really. But I got sick the middle of my junior year with mono, and I lost a lot of weight at there and a lot of muscle mass. And then I came back and I was like, ooh, running even the warm-up laps killed me. I was out of breath. It was bad, but
Yeah, you don't just bounce back from that
no.
at all.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And don't worry about that shoulder thing and crying. I mean, you had thousands of people there watching you because they wanted to be there watching you, so there's no shame in that whatsoever. So did you have any injuries that actually slowed you down during your wrestling career that maybe you could have won a match or two, or was it more just basic injuries that you just had to work through?
It was pretty much my knee. It would bug me here and there. I'd take a bunch of ibuprofen and use some icy hot, and I'd be all right.
Did it affect your takedowns?
No.
Nope, not at all. Okay.
I don't need my knee for my toes, my toe stomp.
How about you, Finley? What do you got for like injuries and stuff?
Nope. I've been pretty clean so far.
Good.
I'm kind of surprised, but I'm not like mad about it. I'm pretty happy, but like just bumps and bruises and stuff. That's about it.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's what I'm hoping to hear. You can pull that mic a little closer to you when you lean back there. She's a pretty soft-spoken gal. Sarah, how about you?
I tore ligaments in my elbow my sophomore year.
Did you?
Yeah. And so I think I maybe wrestled one tournament before state. It's like I was out through December till state. I mean, I practiced. I don't think I was supposed to. And then Parker would like tape my arm, so it was just like stuck bent for the rest of the season. And then this year I don't know what was up with my knee, but I got dropped on my knee for one of the tournaments, and so that kind of affected my shooting abilities. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. No surgeries or anything, no?
No.
Okay, good. Let's just keep it that way.
Yeah.
Definitely. What's your favorite takedown?
Sweep single.
About reversal?
I'm kind of bad at the bottom. Probably a switch.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, Granby.
Okay.
I guess if I can get back on top.
How about pinning move?
Chicken wing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like to do a sweep or a high crotch into a chicken wing, and then I started doing a tilt from a wing, and then like trying to pin from a wing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed, the half Nelson used to be really popular and stuff, but it's really hard to get on strong people. So I didn't see near the amount of half Nelsons at the state tournament that I thought I would, that I thought I would see. So how about Finley? What's your favorite takedown?
Usually I'm defensive, but I've been trying to get inside trips. I got a couple at Twin River Duels.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get good at inside trips, but I'd say that's probably my main one that I'm going to start using.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've got some long arms and legs, so you can slide stuff in there from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
How about reversals?
Probably either a switch or a Granby.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes I just stand up, but
I think I know her favorite pinning hold. I think I saw it, I don't know,
once or twice.
40, 50 times during that tournament, something like that. So, your favorite pinning hold, go ahead and tell us.
Cradle.
The cradle. Takes a lot of strength, a lot of shoulder strength, a lot of arm strength, grip. And you're pretty successful at it.
Yeah.
Pretty successful.
When I was in AAU, though, it was power halves every single time.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't really do it anymore, so I had to switch to something else.
Ah, okay. How about you, Kiara, on those three?
My favorite takedown is my toe stomp. I love doing those.
Describe that to me. I'm not familiar with that.
Basically, I kind of just tie up with them, and then I'll like pull them a little bit, and then they'll step, and I'll snag their toe, and I'll kind of like punch towards the foot that I stepped on, and usually they'll just fall down.
Folds them right over.
Yeah.
Nice.
They usually go to their back, so
Mhm.
it's easy and simple.
Yeah. Yeah, and going to their back gives you the potential for back points if you're fast enough right away, too.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then, what was the second one?
Reversals, spinning holds, takedowns.
My reversal, I don't even know what it's called. Gronky called it the biggie roll, and that's like when I'm on bottom and then there's a girl behind me and she throws her, like, even if it's just her elbow to her wrist, and I grab it and I kind of throw my shoulder down to the mat and she just plops over me. And then I fling my leg over her, and then that's how I pin. That's how I pin them. I really don't have a pinning, like my favorite way to pin somebody.
Sure. Yeah, just the way you described that with, having the arm through here and just moving your shoulder. My favorite was the far side roll, and, I would have their arm around here. But if you have that arm tight, no matter where, you move your body just a little bit, I mean, you can feel their whole body just gets thrown behind you. So, because I was pretty defensive and I was terrible at takedowns. Coach at the duo, that's who I'm looking at over here. You have your teams on each side, and they're coming out shaking hands and running. The coach goes along, you pats on the back, and especially if I had somebody good, he's like, well, Jimbo, I know you're probably going to give up the takedown, but just go right back there and get that far side roll and some back points. So that was pretty much my standard defensive, but I wasn't that great on my feet. So
I'm not that great at shooting either. Coach Ask would always be like, if you hit this, I'll get you ice cream. I'd go for it. And it would not look good. But then I just go to my toe stomp, and that'd get them down. And then the roll, because they like to sit up higher on my back.
Yep.
But like a lot of them couldn't really move me on the bottom. Like my practice partner, Corey Wallner, called me the brick. She's like, I can't move you when you're on your hands and knees. And she's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. I said, I don't know.
Yeah, you lock your hips, lock your shoulders, and on strong people, that's hard to break that down. Pretty hard at all, or definitely hard. What's it feel like to win, and then what's it feel like to lose?
Winning, I don't know. It feels good, but I kind of just like expect that from myself. Like I hold myself to a high standard, but when I lose, I take that and I use it for fuel. It never feels good. Especially this year at state. That was really, really hard. But I have to remind myself why I'm doing it. I mean, obviously I want to win, but it's for fun. And yeah, that's why I joined.
That's a great outlook on it. Which one do you hold on longer in your head, the wins or the losses?
The losses.
Yeah.
I can remember more losses than wins. I think I remember one win. I can name countless losses though.
Right. How about you, Kiara? What do you got in your head that you keep with you, and how do you react to both?
I feel like I kind of hold on to losses. I hold on to both of them, but I hold on to losses more because, like, if I meet that opponent again, I'm like, oh, I've already lost to these people or this person. So I think the one that kind of, like, held me down my senior year was Sierra McFarland. I was constantly worrying about her, and I was constantly on edge. I'm like, oh, my gosh, like, she's going to come out at the state tournament. Like, this is my senior year. I was like, I have to win, and it was kind of like a burden on my back. And then as soon as I heard her she's not going to state tournament, I was like, oh, it's game time. But I think, like, I hold on to my wins, but I also my losses I think I hold on to more as well.
How about you, Finley?
I really love to win. It's fun, and it reminds me why I'm doing it, because my goal is to wrestle in college and hopefully go to the Olympics someday.
Oh, nice.
But when I lose, I'm pretty upset because I hate losing, probably more than I like winning. And So when I lose, when I see them again, I get a little nervous, but I just get so angry and I want to whoop them.
Mm-hmm. So that was going to be leading into my next question. You can either describe one or two or just say like how many have beaten you in the past, but then you came back and beat them at a later time in the year. Has there been a few?
Yes. So the first time I've been wrestling the girl that I beat in the state tournament. I've been wrestling her since the first year I started wrestling in AAU. And I had never beaten her before until the battle for the paddle at Canton. And then she beat me a couple times. And then I beat her at state.
Was that the championship round?
Yes.
For first place, you beat her.
Yes.
Okay, that's where I thought this story was going. Nice.
And I'll probably remember that forever. I remember the matches I beat her because she's always pushed me. And
Mm-hmm. How about you, Kiara?
There's one girl, her name is Hope Orr. She's originally from Viborg. And she was like, my first year, she was a girl that like, I wrestled her maybe 10 times. Like we wrestled all the time. And I remember my sophomore year, we were at a Harrisburg tournament and I tried to throw a headlock. This match is the reason I'm no headlocks. I hate them. I despise them. And I tried to throw one, and then I got pinned, and I was so mad at myself. I was like, why would I change up what I was doing when I've beat her these other times? And then I change what I'm doing, and I lose. And I was so hard on myself, and I was like, yep, that's it for wrestling. I'm done. You won't see me next week, Coach Ask. And I don't know. And then I wrestled her again at the state tournament, and I pinned her. And I was my sophomore year, and then my junior year, I lost her a couple times when she moved to Watertown. And yeah, which the state tournament match that me and her had was really good. Mm-hmm. But I think I kind of gave up a little bit. Well, not necessarily gave up, but I was just lost all motivation because I was like, I'm already losing.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I also I had her almost pinned, and then the ref didn't call it, and I think that's what kind of was like, what is going on? It kind of made me mad, and then we got sent to, I think it was neutral, and she got me in a takedown, and I was gassed. I'll admit it. I was gassed.
Yeah.
I was a little tired. Third period. I don't usually go in the third period very often.
See, that's a very interesting dynamic because I've seen a lot of really good people that, place in state, but when they later on, as they get it upper in high school, they meet people that can match them. Mm-hmm. And, if you're not used to going that 6 minutes, it can gas you. But I'd rather be hearing about you getting gassed physiologically than mentally. No more mental stuff, no matter what you're doing the rest of your life. None of that. How about you?
Last year, there was a girl from Rapid City that I think she was ranked beneath me, and we wrestled at a tournament, and she beat me by 1 point. And then she was my state semifinals, and I think I won like 5-3. That's the main match that I remember winning because that was really big.
Mm-hmm. Nice. You guys have a lot of cool experiences. You are going to move on to wrestling college. Why don't you tell us about that?
I'm going to Northern Michigan University. It's in the Upper Peninsula. It's in Marquette, Michigan, and I'm going to wrestle there. It's a D2 school. I think they have I think next year they're going to have 25 or 30 girls on the team. I know that They needed a lot of lighter weights. I'm not sure how many they got, but super excited, and yeah.
Very cool. And Kiara, you said no to the college wrestling?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, as much as I'd love to, no. I kind of want to get going with my career and not have to have wrestling as a full-time job plus school. I'd rather kind of tie down with my nursing and get going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely nothing wrong with that. And nursing, that's going to be some tough schooling, so
Yeah.
it's gonna take your time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Finley, you mentioned something already. So college is just kind of maybe in between what you were talking about. So what are your aspirations? I mean, you have what, 4 more years high school?
5.
Wow. Okay. So you got some wrestling to do before you even get to the college, but you mentioned the Olympics part. When did you have your first thoughts on having that as a goal?
Well, mostly when I learned about Helen Morales.
Mm-hmm.
She's an Olympic wrestler, and I watched her movie, and I was like, I want to do that someday. And I want to wrestle for Iowa. That's my goal,
Okay.
because they have a really solid team. I really want to go there, and then I want to go to the Olympics. That's the goal.
All right. We'll have to stay in touch with your parents, and I got to follow that. That'll be pretty cool. That'll be quite a journey.
Yeah.
A lot of hard work, but I think you're up to it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were choosing college, how many did you look at? Did you like research how many like in the U.S. have women's wrestling? How did that all go?
My mom gave me a list, and Coach Gronke gave me a list, and then I went through and looked at like location, degrees they had, and then like I texted a whole bunch of coaches. Like after I decided, I went into my contacts and I deleted probably 30 coaches' names.
Oh wow!
Because I had talked to so many. But I think I ended up visiting 3 or 4 schools, and I decided on Michigan because I really liked the location, I really liked the coach, and then they were giving me a pretty good offer.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you know how long it's been a collegiate sport? Because I figured it had to come up through the high school ages first, but do you have any information on that?
I don't know exactly, but I've talked to some women that have been like, yeah, I wrestled in college, and I didn't know that it was a collegiate sport until I guess I started wrestling. But yeah, I don't know how many years it's been.
Mm-hmm. So, the thing that I like the most about women's wrestling is I think you would agree that it really helped you in self-defense. You know, if something goes on future, in your lives, there's people that'll try to take advantage of women and all that kind of stuff. I feel that you guys are from what I saw, you're pretty confident with your bodies, and you could hold your own pretty good on self-defense. What do you think on that?
Yeah. I mean, my dad is like an MMA coach.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I was
we were
in
going to get to that.
jiu-jitsu when I was 2.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I kind of stopped going when we moved here, but I don't know. I just like wrestling, and I think I would do pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just hope that you'd never have to use it for anything like that. But I just
yeah.
like the fact that you've got that physical training behind you to where if you ever had to defend yourself, and if any bad situations like that come up, fight dirty. There's no refs. Okay, just but yeah, that's something good to have in your portfolio. How do you think that wrestling has helped you grow as a person, Kiara?
I don't really know. I kind of grew more into my own body because like my freshman year and me now, we're completely different people. Like we look different, and physically and mentally we're different. And like my freshman year, I was kind of more like laid back, and now I'm definitely talking to whoever, talking whenever. And I don't know, it's got me closer with a lot of my teammates, like that I never like would have ever spoken a word to probably.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice because I have all like my little friends, my little girls on the team, And like they'll see me in the hallway, they'll be like, Kiara, Kiara. I'm like, I think that's like the best part of the sport is like the friendship and the connection you make with other people. And that's definitely made me grow a little bit because I love people. I love hanging out with people. So like seeing people in public, especially, and like even from other schools, like it's just nice because I don't know. I think it's just changed me, like changed my outlook on people and like becoming friends with whoever. Because everybody goes through something, so you don't really have to judge them on that. So like I think being on a team with a bunch of girls and their different backgrounds and just kind of taking it all out on the mat.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. How about you, Finley? Do you feel yourself growing as a person? I know you're a few years behind these guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely helped me with my mental health a lot. It's made me a lot tougher, and I really like to be busy, and I really love to just be active, and it's just helped me grow physically and mentally, and it's helped me learn to like get along with people and like getting to be with like these guys and my team. I really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Sarah, your turn.
It's definitely made me a lot tougher. And also it's like I think it's also tested like my patience, just my patience with like taking like stuff's gonna take time and patience with I don't know, like maybe a new wrestler in the room. And also like Kiara said, you meet so many new people. Like I'm friends with like freshmen and 7th graders and 8th graders. Like me and Finley's one of my better friends.
Mm-hmm.
And that probably wouldn't have happened without wrestling.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, because it's so easy to have your grade as your separator. You know, you're only hanging with people in your class or maybe one up or down, but it really spreads it out. That's pretty cool. So, yeah, that's pretty good, young ladies. I'm really enjoyed this, and what we're going to do is we're going to do some more segments with your dad and coach, and your dad wasn't here, but your coach is going to sit down with you if you've got some time for that.
Yep.
We'll just do just a little bit more, and we'll go from there. So congratulations. You guys had a great season. I'm glad you had fun. I'm glad they've got the women's wrestling for you to pour yourself into, and wish you luck on the rest of your lives and where you go from here.
Real quick, Jim.
Yep.
The reason I won state is probably Sarah.
Oh, yeah? There you go.
She drives me everywhere. She does so many things. Like, she pushes me, and she, like, at state, she was my rock. She just kind of stayed with me the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Good on you. Good on you. All right. Yeah, great final words. Well, for now, we'll move on.
5 minutes later.
Well, we're back, and we've got Finley and her dad, Luke, and Coach Jeremy Ask. And we go to the same church with Luke and Finley. And Luke, why don't you go ahead and just tell us whatever you want to about where you grew up, your raising, any sports you participated in, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Yeah. I spent most of my childhood in Sturgis. Graduated from Tri-Valley. I did do wrestling as a youth. I really enjoyed it. My dad still says to this day that he probably should have encouraged me to just stay out for wrestling. But he was the varsity basketball coach.
Oh,
So
really? There you go.
It was kind of expected that was the direction that I would go.
Mm-hmm.
And I did, and I enjoyed it. I loved basketball, but it's kind of funny because my adult life brought me back into the combat sports area with MMA and coaching MMA, and I did some of it. My body was a little younger.
Was that after the military?
After the Army, yeah. Well, I kind of got my start in the Army with the new modern Army Combatives program. That kind of got my fire lit a little bit with it. And then I went to college in Vermilion and met up with a few guys, and we ended up starting our own gym down there. And that kind of how it got started.
Nice.
Just really enjoyed it. And carried me on, carried on through my kids, I guess. Finley started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when she was probably 3.
Oh, really? Nice.
And I'd bring her to practice with me and lock her in the cage with some yoga balls, and she'd be rolling around on yoga balls in the cage, and while I coached, because my wife was always busy. So, yeah, she's always been my sidekick.
Just took a quick break here and shut a door over here. I don't. These guys could hear it a little bit, but I could hear a bunch of birds chirping, so I went ahead and shut that door. So that affected the light here. So, yeah, and with Luke, we're waiting for him to talking about his military career. He's waiting for some buddies to come visit here. So we'll do a future podcast with you and your buddies and hear about a lot more of that. I'd really be interested in hearing those stories. So, Coach Ask, how about you? Where'd you grow up, and what's some of your history?
Oh gosh. I grew up in north central Iowa, a little community called St. Ansgar, about 1,500 people. My background, as it applies to the sport of wrestling, was my dad went to college and wrestled. He wrestled in high school as a freshman, and they milked cows. And after that season, his first season of wrestling, and he wrestled in Osage, Iowa, which is powerhouse wrestling school in north central Iowa, has been for decades. Anyway, he went out his freshman year, Jim, and then his dad, my grandpa, said that takes way too much time and didn't let him go out his sophomore and junior years, and it really bummed my dad out. You know, he really wanted to be back out. So his senior year, he kind of put his foot down and stood up to his dad and said, I'm wrestling again. I like it too much. And they were a good squad. So he went back out and wrestled his senior year, Jim, and then he went on and wrestled at Rochester Junior College. And then he actually ended up at Morningside down in Sioux City.
Okay.
And they were very successful collegiate wrestling program at that time. And so, yeah, my dad, had shoes on my feet, when I was an infant, started me in the sport. But he wasn't, at the same time, he wasn't overbearing with it. He always, he just started working with me as far as teaching me the sport. But he always would ask, do you want to go wrestle in a tournament? Do you want to? And if I said no, he said he didn't push the subject, and so I think I started first competing when I was like a kindergartner. I might have tried a couple of tournaments or whatever, but yeah. And then I went on and wrestled through my, all through middle school and high school in the state of Iowa, and then wrestled for a short period at Iowa State University. I was recruited and went there, and yeah. And then wrestling didn't work out for me so well collegiately, and I kind of stepped away from the sport for a few years before I kind of dove back into it. And at that point, it was more the coaching side of it. Been doing that now for 125 years, it feels like. So,
yeah, as one of the questions here, I know I already have the answer, but I was going to ask if you had any apprehensions about your daughter starting wrestling, but based on the 3-year-old jiu-jitsu thing and all that,
No
apprehensions whatsoever.
Yeah, I always thought it's important to teach young ladies to not be victims, and to have a little bit of self-defense and ability to protect themselves. I guess I always just assumed my kids would be basketball players. But yeah, this has been fun. It's Finley's a hard charger, and she kind of just like she said in earlier podcast, she likes to stay busy. And I'm fortunate that I'm a stay-at-home dad, and she's fortunate because I can take her anywhere she wants to go. And a lot of kids don't have that benefit. So
yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, you've got a pretty sweet situation over there. You live on an acreage just over here, so it's kind of cool. And I just really like the fact that I'm going to get to watch her and Blaine continuing to grow up. And I don't know if Blaine will do sports later on, but if he is, I want to be there watching. But definitely going to be following Finley through the rest of her career.
Oh, he's a decent little wrestler. He just has to figure out he wants to be a little more serious about it. But right now, just kind of like Coach Ask said, if he feels like going to a tournament, we'll take him. You know, if he doesn't, we don't push it. I'm not going to force you to be there. It's supposed to be fun. So, in the past years, he'd always got stuck going to the tournaments because she was signed up. And
Yeah.
Yeah, just
so
like you mentioned in reverse.
he's like, oh, if I'm going to be there, I may as well wrestle, you know, and that's just kind of how it went. But yeah.
What was your favorite part about watching her wrestling?
Man,
Or
it's
specific
when
match
she
or anything.
when she gets her hand raised at the end, you just see the pure joy on her face. And I also like it when she gets a little adversity, and you can tell she goes from kind of nice to a little bit mean, and that's fun to see because she's kind of a sweetheart. And she doesn't get mean very often, but it's kind of fun to watch that.
So when you were coaching her, what did you see in her as far as choosing like what moves to teach her, or what was and how long have you been coaching girls wrestling?
So when I started coaching in Canton Gym in 2001, that's when I'd spent 2 years teaching and coaching in Alcester, and then a job opened up in Canton, and so decided to make the move up there. Nick Joslin was the head coach, and Nick knew me from the prior 2 seasons at Alcester, and I would say in a way I was kind of recruited. Nick was getting closer to retirement age, and so I think Nick saw something in me that he liked, and we got along, and so Nick approached me about possibly coming to Canton. So it was in 01 that I came to Canton and got into the program and been coaching there ever since. So I coached the boys team starting in 01, and yeah, I took a couple of years off because I had a daughter, or I have an older daughter, Jim, that is now graduated from college, and she was a basketball player. And that was before they sanctioned girls wrestling. And when she was playing basketball, I felt like I was missing some of her stuff, and I didn't want to miss her stuff just because I know that high school window is very small.
Right.
And so I decided I needed to step away a little bit. And so Jeremy Swenson, who had been coaching with me for a number of years, he took the head job, and I moved down to like a middle school position for a couple of years and tried to follow her through basketball. Well, that was her freshman and sophomore years, and she struggled a lot with injuries. She kind of played basketball like a wrestler. She should have been a wrestler. And she says now, had it been sanctioned back when she was in high school, she probably would have. So long story short, she struggled with some injuries from diving and being on the court more than she needed to, and ended up giving up basketball because of injuries, bad ankles, bad elbow, knee, bunch of different wrists. And so when she decided to be done with basketball, I said, well, what are you going to do now? Well, I think I'll do wrestling stats. I'm like, well, that's awesome. You know what I mean? So at that point, when she got on the stat crew, Coach Swenson said, why don't you just come back up to being like co-head coaches with me? And so he and I were co-head coaches then for a number of years. And yeah, back when they decided to sanction the girls wrestling here in 2021. Yeah. I just felt a calling for some reason, Jim. Like when I came here in 01, the boys program was in place and things, they had a lot of good wrestling people. There's a great family of wrestling people in this community. Sayers and Maribos, and I could go on and on and on.
Yeah, I wrestled a Maribot.
Yeah. And so those families have kept wrestling relevant in Canton for decades.
Right.
And so, yeah, when they decided to sanction girls wrestling, I just felt like I needed to see that off and running, kind of like I did when I came here with the boys program. We needed the boys program when I got here, just, needed a little boost in the arm or whatever. And I think I just God put me here at the right time back then. And then God put me in the right position and the right mindset when they sanctioned girls. And I just felt like I needed that. I needed to see it happen. I always felt like girls sports in Canton during my time here, I've always struggled, the team sports and stuff. And I have, I had an older daughter. Now I have a younger daughter, Autumn, who's a sophomore. And I want to see girls like Finley, be confident and have grit and be ornery and have those characteristics that they can carry on into their lives, outside of wrestling. And so, yeah, that when they decided to sanction it, I was all in. And right away, I there was a handful of girls that I saw in the high school that I knew just they had that appearance, you know what I mean, or the mindset, because I had them as students or, I'd been around them. And Sarah mentioned one of them, Rachel Mastelier. Rachel was a senior that first year they sanctioned. And I went up to Rachel right away when the state announced it that spring that they were going to be sanctioning. I went up to Rachel right away and said, I'm going to coach the girls and you're going to come out. And Rachel kind of looked at me like, this guy's crazy. Kind of like Finn looks at me all the time. And so Rachel came out and, there was a Nye girl, Emma Nye. She was out as a senior and it's just the very first year we had 15 girls. I had 15 girls and Kiara was part of that group. She decided to hang up the basketball shoes and become a wrestler and it was a very easy transition for her. And I wanted Kiara. Like, she's an athlete. She's got a great personality. She's got a great work ethic. You know what I mean? So there's, I'm drawn as a coach and as an educator. I've always been drawn to certain students and athletes, kids that I can see something special in. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I got into it, Jim. And here I am, 4 years later, and I'm fully engulfed in the girls or women's wrestling side of it. And had you told me this was going to happen 15 years ago or 10 years ago, I probably would have told you were crazy. Yeah.
So Finley being pretty young, what did you see in her, and what and how are you developing her?
So this is a great story, and I honestly I wish I had more background, but Luke and Finn have been doing a lot of wrestling since she was little, and I didn't know so much about it. And again, it's because the girls wrestling is so new, right? So when we started up 4 years ago, I didn't know who Finley Evian was. I didn't know Finley at all. And then, probably even second year, I don't know if I heard Finley's name, but like probably by the time she hit 5th, 6th grade, I started to hear about this little gal that was having a lot of success in the youth wrestling and was very into it. And my eyes just keep getting wider and wider, and my blinders, like a horse, just keep getting bigger and bigger as to how many young gals there are out there like Finley that have been at it since 2nd, 3rd grade. I think my view first year is like most of these girls have zero experience. They haven't been around the sport. You know what I mean? I had a few girls during my first 15 years in Canton that did come out in high school. I think they just kind of wanted to try it, but they had to be a part of the boys team, and it was tough on them, and not many of them survived or lasted. So let's go to Finn. So, Luke has always been real, I'd say humble about Finn's abilities and Finley's background. And so even coming into the season, her first year, I didn't fully know who Finley Evian was. I'll be honest with you. Like, I knew this was a gal who had wrestling experience, had been doing stuff down at Legends of Gold. And that was kind of the extent of what I knew. Because I've also, as I've gotten older, I've separated myself a bit from our AAU program just because it was burning me out. I was getting tired. I only have so much energy as well. And so coming in this year, my hope is that, I hope this gal has fun, and I hope I can help her progress. And I guess my expectation, and these two might laugh a little bit, was, yeah, maybe this gal will win half her matches. You know what I mean? Maybe she'll go 500. You know what I mean? That'd be kind of fun to have a seventh grader that has a little bit of success. And it became blatantly apparent to me in like 2 days that I was a little off on my expectations of this gal. Just work ethic, and she mentioned it earlier. Sarah and her, their relationship, Jim, is crazy unique, and I could go into a lot of depth about that. Just like morning workouts this past season, and those two being there all the time. But so coaching Finley this year was phenomenal. It inspired me to see somebody so young with so much skill set and so much interest in getting better. And Finley's like a sponge. She wants to be showing new things. She wants to be showing little tricks. She wants to be exposed to, a variety of techniques and mental things. And so
tons of mentoring right here. I mean, when they say just pick a subject, everything starts at home. I mean, what a testament.
Yeah.
What a testament here. So I asked her the question during the earlier segment. From your point of view, how did she take the winning and the losing, and what can you describe on that, on what you saw as from a parent's perspective? She really smiled at that last part. Waiting.
So with that stuff, like she said, this is the first year of her wrestling that we've gotten to wrestle just girls.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
So, she told me after her second grade year that she wanted to win a state championship because she got 8th her first year. And so I said, well, okay, if you want to win, we got to start going out to this place that's called Legends of Gold, and you got to start, wrestling in the off season a little bit and doing some of that.
Luke, when you said she got 8th, that was in boys bracket.
Girls.
No.
Oh, it was all girls?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
State tournament was always
Yep.
girls.
It
That
was.
State was always girls.
That's good.
State was always girls. That was the only time we got to just wrestle girls.
Okay.
And the funny thing was, she started in January of that first year.
Oh, wow.
But she'd already been doing some jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. So she had some grappling background. She, not giving up your back.
Right.
Pull guard or whatever doesn't work in wrestling. But so, we went out there and we started working on getting tough. And as a dad with a little girl, it was hard to watch her take the beating she took.
So there was a lot of growing there, huh, Finley?
Yeah.
You
it
didn't
was really
start
humbling.
off.
Yeah.
You didn't start off just kicking butt right away.
No. And especially out at Legends, her main training partners are boys state champions. Like Carter Kendrick was one of her training partners growing up, who's a 106-pound state champion for the boys this year. Cash Koopman's Iowa state champ. It's hard. It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
But
Do you think it was
she
harder?
always wanted to go back. So I was like, well, okay.
So
go back.
Finley, you think it was harder for him to see you lose and get beat on? Was it harder on him or you, or what do you think on that?
It was hard to lose, but I knew I was getting better. So it was kind of okay.
Yeah.
So it was probably harder for him just watching me be on the bottom the whole time. But
Well, I just tell her, I said, every time you go out here, you're getting tougher for state tournament, and we're going to take our lumps during the season, and then we're going to go out and dominate at state. So that was always the goal.
Did you have any favorite moves you liked seeing her do?
It's been fun to see her really get into hitting that cradle. Cause Joe Vanderbroek, he had been always saying all through her youth, she needs to learn how to do a cradle with those long arms, and she always kind of just power half people. And, she was so much physically stronger than most of the girls just from wrestling boys all the time. And that, so that worked. And then she's just kind of adapted. This year, last year we had an okay year. This year, she told me before the season started that she was going to be a state champion. And I said, okay, let's, I told Coach Ask that. And he was like, well, it's good to have goals, I guess, And I said, she in cross country, she said, I'm going to make state. And I was like, kind of chuckled. I was like, all right, like you might have a shot to make the varsity team, but state, okay. And she made state in cross country. So I learned when this girl says she's going to do something, you just get out of her way and give her the opportunities, and she's going to make it happen.
And like I said, I had limited time watching you wrestle so far, but when I was there and I saw how many times you went after that cradle, and you've got the wider set shoulders, the longer arms, and I've seen a lot of when somebody's getting the cradle put on them, when they break it, a sudden break, that puts the person on the offensive in a bad position, like that. You could throw yourself on your back if you do it wrong. And I didn't see any of that on you. I was just nervous. I saw cradle, but you could hold it. And I was extremely impressed with that. And I don't have any college experience. I went to USD Springfield back when they closed it in '84, and they just got rid of the wrestling program 2 years before that. So I don't think I would have gone anywhere on that. So my experience is limited to high school from, I think, 7th grade on, no AAU, but that cradle, I was just like, holy cow, she likes the cradle. And there was a couple times where you had to push their hip over a little bit, because I'm up there, just tense watching. And I'm not screaming and yelling, but I'm in my head, I'm like, push that hip over, and then boom, the shoulder blades get flat, and you were there. It was a lot of fun for me to watch.
She's relentless. When she's on top and wrestling, she's relentless with that cradle. She's getting to her crossface, she's getting to that tricep, and she's wearing opponents down. And it's a mindset too, Jim. Mm-hmm. When you hear Luke talk about Finley from way back in 2nd grade, getting 8th place and wanting to get better, wanting to be a state champion, I think all of us sitting here need to understand this is a very unique girl, a very unique person. Mm-hmm. She's very driven. She's very tough. And I've coached athletes for 30 years now. And these kind of kids right here don't come along a lot. And so I just want to celebrate the fact that Finley is very unique, right? She's very not your typical 7th grader, right? What I got all of a sudden flopped into my lap this year was not what I was expecting, right? She's very not typical. Uh-huh. And it's a testament to her. It's a testament, like you said, to her upbringing, and it's a testament to what God put in her. Finley's got a lot of natural ability and physically, but she's got a lot of heart, and she thinks well for her age, and she's got a lot of God-given cool stuff that she's capitalizing on. So
right. And I misjudged your age. I thought you were an 8th grader this year, but you were 7th when you did all that. Yeah. Hence the 5 more years, not 4. Holy cow.
Yeah. I get that a lot, actually.
So Finley, what do you think your height and weight class will be when you're a senior?
When I'm a senior?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm interested in this answer.
I'm guessing 5'9", probably 114 or 120, I guess.
Ooh. Coach thinking a little. I think he's thinking your muscle mass as you progress is going to bump that weight class up a little bit, but we'll see.
That's my hope.
You've already explained your discipline on diet. I don't like dieting, but a diet.
We like to call it weight management.
Weight management, yeah.
Because I would never the only time I didn't eat or drink was the day of. I would eat depending on how close I was, I would have like a small breakfast, maybe a glass of water, just to keep me like going through the day. But that's the only time I like didn't eat, was like a couple hours before the tournament.
Yeah, you don't want to put too much in the stomach prior to that.
No, and I've got a lot of experience with managing weight with my professional MMA fighters and stuff like that. And you know, with her age and she's growing and stuff like that, that was a thing for me, that I wasn't going to let her have to be too deficient while she's growing.
Yes.
You know, she's got the rest of her life to cut weight, if that's what she wants to do. And you know, the higher you get, you're gonna have to just suck a little bit more weight. That's just is what it is. But she's pretty shredded. Like, you know, like I've seen some pictures of her at the state tournament, and like she had muscles on top of muscles. You know, she was probably at the lowest as she could go this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely never going to make 100 again.
No.
Wouldn't even want to.
No.
That's not a
Actually-
good goal.
I grew about 1.5 inches during wrestling season.
Yeah,
I
she
believe
did.
it.
Yeah, that was tough.
Seemed to me like you grew about an inch just when they raised your hand on that championship match.
Well, that was the 100 pounds was the road to the state championship this year. So, you know, that's where we had to be, and that's where we were at. So,
Olivia Anderson, my championship match this year, in the year before I won state in 5th grade, so that would be 4th grade. She beat me in the state championship in 4th grade.
Oh, okay.
So while you're talking about that, that's what I want. I want the full background. So 2nd grade, you took 8th.
Yes.
Okay. 3rd grade.
I think that was COVID.
COVID.
That was COVID year.
she would have. She was top
I wanted
top
to
of the
win.
food chain. She would have.
Was she?
Yeah,
Okay.
but and then 4th,
I got 2nd.
2nd, lost to Olivia in the finals.
Okay.
Got blast doubled to my back. Wasn't happy about it.
Yeah, and then 5th, you won it.
5th, I won.
Did you wrestle her?
No, I
she was
actually
a 6th,
wrestled
so she
Emery
went to
Volker.
Emery Volker from T. She wrestled in the finals.
Okay.
Our little tradition that was not broken until this year was actually, she'd always give me a bloody nose, and then I'd get all angry, and then I'd pin her, but we're pretty good friends.
The girl from T?
Yeah.
Okay. What grade is she now?
She
She's
is
7th
in
grade.
my
She's a
grade.
scrapper. She was ranked
She's
a lot,
scrappy.
quite a bit this year.
She
at
made
100.
state.
At 100?
Yeah,
Yes.
she made state at
Okay.
100. She was undersized.
She's small.
Did we see her?
Yeah,
this
I
season,
wrestled
we
her in
wrestled
conference.
DAC 12.
Oh, okay.
We pinned her in like 37 seconds
Oh,
or
okay.
something like that. But
All right. So that was 5th.
Yes.
yeah, 5th she got 1st, and then
6th was rough.
6th was rough. We got super duper sick night before state,
Oh, wow.
and she was up until like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was actually just gonna pull the plug on it. She had like 102 fever. She was coughing, and she said, "Well, I made it this far. I just have to try." And
Another testament.
Amy and I were both just like, "Oh gosh, this is gonna be rough." You
And
know?
your mother being a doctor, right?
yeah.
Yep.
And so we went, and she fell asleep on the way there. And I was like, she never sleeps in the car.
Well, he also
And
gave me NyQuil.
I gave her NyQuil instead of DayQuil on accident. Yeah. Yeah. So that was not good. And then we ended up sitting in the breezeway waiting for her matches because she was just so uncomfortable for her to be in the stands. It was so hot and just
Loud.
yeah. And then
It
she
was-
went out and lost her first match to Taya
Girl, I
Jacobs.
tech falled.
Girl,
the
she
week
had tech
before.
falled the week before at Black Hills Nationals.
Or no, I didn't tech fall her. I won
That
like
was
14-0.
14-0, yeah. And lost to her like 9-4, or 9-3, something like that. And then lost to that London Hunsacker from Pierre in her second match. She actually went out, took her down right away. Finn took her down right away, locked up the cradle, rolled back on the cradle, pulled her right on top of herself and got pinned.
Oh, no.
Oh, one of those hazards I was talking about.
So she just didn't have the strength to really rock that cradle.
All right.
and didn't even make the podium. So that was
First year I haven't placed.
yeah, that was tough.
Yeah.
Because she actually had a pretty decent season
That's a character builder.
going into that, and so we had goals in the off season to get stronger, and really work on our immune system and pushing vitamin D and stuff like that.
That also really fueled me to want to win this year.
Yeah. And
I bet. So, leading into this year, then, Jim, because they talked a little bit about it, the girls did earlier. Our first event of the season is the Okoboji tournament.
It
Is
was
that
in
first?
Spencer, I think. It was an Iowa tournament.
Okoboji was first. And then
Okoboji's
Spencer.
first, yeah, then
Oh.
Spencer. And so we go to this Okoboji tournament, and they have the same weight class in Iowa, 100 pounds, that we do. And so we're supposed to seed the girls, right, according to their past results or, ability, so on and so forth. And I get this information, and so I'm supposed to, try to tell them where I think maybe Finley should be seated or whatever. And my girls, the Iowa girls at that point, had started practice almost a month prior to us, and they already had 12 to 15 matches under their belts.
Wow.
When we are going to our first tournament, and we go over into Iowa and match up a bunch against all these girls, and our record is 0-0 because we haven't wrestled, and so we've got no criteria over anybody. So Finley literally got. And I told him when I emailed, I said, this is a girl who you might want to consider, I'm not saying giving her the 1 seed or the 2 seed, but you might want to consider seeding her because otherwise she might blow this bracket up if she ends up in the wrong spot. And they ignored me, and she got drawn in and was on the top half of the bracket. And I think second match, we had to wrestle the number 1 seed, as I recall. And so, yeah, she blew the bracket up. So the number 1 seed won her first match and then had to face Finn. I think it was Ruiz.
No, she wrestled Ruiz in the finals. That was that girl from
Okoboji? No,
or-
red
Yeah.
singlet.
Yeah, she was good too, though.
Yeah.
She was like 12-0 going
Yeah.
into it.
Yep.
Spirit Lake, I think.
Spirit Lake, you're right. Yeah. And so she wrestled her, and I think
Falder.
that gal was a senior.
Yeah.
She had tattoos. I
Yeah.
remember that. Finn was like, she's got tattoos. Wow.
And Finn Techfalder just annihilated her. And then in the semis, I think had to wrestle the 3 seed, another junior or senior, and destroyed her. Didn't give up a point.
She didn't give up a point the first tournament.
No, didn't give up a point the first tournament. And then the finals wrestled this Ruiz girl from Spencer and beat her like 8-0, 10-0.
Yeah, it was like it was pretty.
And
That's pretty
and so
sweet.
it was at that point too, right, Jim, where I knew Finn was special, but after that first tournament, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, because I've seen these girls wrestle, right? These I knew this Ruiz girl from Spencer. I knew the little gal from Spirit Lake. I'd seen them because we've been in Iowa the last couple of years, and I knew they were scrappy because some of my other girls had faced them and wrestled them. And so, yeah, when she won that first tournament, I was kind of dumbfounded. I went home. I remember talking to Brenda, you guys, and because Brenda wasn't there, and she's like, "Well, how'd it go?" And I'm going through results, and telling her about Kiara and Sarah and this and that. And I was like, "But the one I really got to tell you about is Finley." And I told her, and my wife was like, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?" So, yeah.
So after that tournament, my confidence went up, and I got super excited.
Yeah.
Did you have any drawdowns after that, or did you kind of plateau or just keep getting better? You didn't have a big drop after that success, did you?
3 of my 4 losses were to Olivia Anderson, and then 1 was to Liza Kruger.
And when did the first loss to?
That was Liza Kruger.
McCook.
Oh, that was your first loss of
Yeah.
the season, and that was like Christmas time.
And she was up by like 4 points with like 30 seconds left in that match and got headlocked to her back for like literally the only way the girl could win. And yeah.
So she took off, Jim. Like the beginning of the season was like, woo. I mean, she went out and dominated that first tournament. She went out and dominated the next weekend at Spencer. The weekend after that was Battle of the Paddle, which was our tournament that we hosted, and that's where she faced the Anderson girl from
Overtime.
Watertown and beat her in overtime. So yeah, the way the season started for Finley was incredible for her and for me, and for the team. I bet Kiara would say like, "Holy cats!" Right? I'm sure you watched her and thought, "Dear Lord, this little stinker knows what she's doing," right? I mean, I remember talking to the older girls and saying, "Holy cats, we've got something special here in this girl." So yeah.
Yep, just adding to the team.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting just hearing, about how a team can come together so quickly. Like you talk about two seniors coming out first year
Right.
right off the bat, and then down to somebody that's come up through the ranks, and it's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to watching next year. A little more than I was there this year.
We had 34 girls this season on the team, 7th through 12th grade. So in that first year, we had 15. Second year, Kara, we had 18 to 20. Third year, we had about 25. And then this year, we had 34. And Coach Gronke's working hard. I'm still working hard at trying to recruit girls. We definitely would like to push that 40 number
Right.
this coming season. So, yeah.
So do you see much camaraderie between the boys and the girls team, or are they just pretty much their own?
They're
entity?
pretty separate. I would say they obviously root for each other and stuff like that. From what I see, from looking outside in. But man, those senior girls this year with Kiara and Sarah especially, and Jaren was real good for Finn. And then Kaylee Dean, she's a great gal. And then we had some other girls she looks up to, Maren Rhodey and Jewel Gannon and some of them gals. They've all just been so good to her. Never making her feel bad about her success, which can happen. It can. That was probably my biggest concern, even more so than her ability to do it was.
How would her teammates react?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because a lot of those girls could have gone the other way and just, not been so happy for her. But, you look at, like, just the way Sarah mentored her, even though she lost her match at state, and stayed with her and guided her through. And then her first loss to Kruger, Sarah really helped her bounce back from that. And then, just the way those girls have been tight is kind of special. It's really special, and, Kiara carries her around like an infant sometimes. And, just Jaren in the practice room, I think, sounds like they battled it out quite a bit, shared ringworm a few times. And just, she's got a good group still in there, but I don't think we could have been blessed with a better group of seniors to have a 7th grade year the way
Yes.
No.
she's
Totally agree. And can you imagine? I mean, I look at it now, her and Sarah had a built-in relationship coming in.
Yep.
But, look at Jaren, who probably didn't know Finn at all.
Not much,
Hardly,
no.
right? And all of a sudden, she's wrestling live goes. She's our 120-pounder. Finn's 100. And she's wrestling live goes with this little stinker in 7th grade that's given her everything she wants and more, right? And it was comical at times, I'll be honest, sitting back as coach, watching some of this live wrestling going on. and you could just tell, Sarah, Jaren, Maren, didn't matter who it was that she was wrestling. I mean, they're having to give it everything they got, wrestling Finn. It wasn't like, I'm going to downshift here and go a little easy on the 7th grader. No. You got to stand your ground. You better dig your heels in, because Finn's going to scrap hard, which is really fun to see. Yeah.
Everybody sharpens the other person.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron. We talk about that,
Nice.
don't we? That Sarah used that as a verse, one of her devotionals with the team this year, and I used it in the past. So yeah, we talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I think when I realized that it was going to be a special season was one of our last practices out at Legends Gold before the season started. Sarah couldn't go to practice for some reason, and so she had to partner up with Cash Koopman for the whole practice. And Cash is a kid that's been just pounding on her for the last
Forever.
forever. I mean, just like
He's good.
never even close. And he's good.
No.
He's really good. 100-pounder, really good. And they went into that practice and they looked like two cats with their tails tied together. And it was no longer easy pickings. She didn't get the better of it,
No,
but
I did way better.
she did not get beat up on. And I was like, ooh.
What did he say? What was the look on his face?
Well, he got chewed out the whole practice by, like, what are you doing, Cash? What are you doing? Come on. And Cody, like, strazzed him a little bit or whatever, but it was like, I was like, oh.
It wasn't that Cash was doing anything incorrect.
No, Cash goes.
It was Finley.
Yeah.
Finley Evian's gotten a lot
Finley
better.
stepped up a little bit, and it was like, all right.
Just working on his male psyche a little bit.
Yeah.
That's
So-
perfect.
Going back to kind of where this all started, you asked Luke about the connection between the boys and the girls teams. So my first 2 years, the girls practiced in the mornings, and I was running those practices, Jim, and then I'd go run the practices in the afternoons with the boys team. And my son, the first year the girls were sanctioned, was a freshman. And so I wanted to be involved. I wanted to be in his practice room as well. So it worked really well. And I still think these girls are crazy for being willing to practice at, 5:45, 6 a.m. in the morning, but they were. And they kind of did it with, no questions asked. And I think they did it because they understood, and I appreciate that too. I think they did it because they understood that I wanted to still be in the boys team and involved there because of my son. And so then by the third year, we kind of broke it up and did like 3 mornings a week, or no, a couple of mornings a week, so I could still go to the boys' practices in the afternoon, and then in the afternoon, and then a few of the other days we'd go in the afternoon, same time as the boys. So I wasn't full-time with the boys. Now this past season, we practiced completely separate practice room in the high school every day after school. I wasn't in one boys practice at all this season. And the two teams are essentially completely separate entities, right? There's a few tournaments where we are at the same location together, and the tournament is running a boys tournament separate from a girls tournament. But our program has grown quick enough and gotten big enough that we pretty much run on our own separate schedule. Like when we go over to those Iowa tournaments at the beginning of the season, the boys aren't going there. We have some Nebraska stuff on our schedule. The boys aren't going there. So and it will continue to progress that direction, just 2 separate teams. And those first few years, of course, because I was bouncing back and forth between the girls and the boys teams, I heard grumblings from the boys, girls wrestling, what are you doing, ask, and stuff like that. And I kept telling them, like, this is legit. We've got girls that are legit, right off the bat, Kiara King was successful. Right off the bat, Sarah Schroeder was successful. It was like a 1 month thing for, I would say, Kiara and Sarah to just build a little bit of confidence, start to understand that, okay, what Coach Ask is showing me and what we're doing in this room is going to help me compete, right, when we get on the mat. And it didn't take long, and the athletes start to separate themselves, from the rest of the competition. And so I told the boys, I'm like, you just wait. You just wait. These girls are going to be tough. They're going to be good. And the first year at the state tournament, it was kind of a mess. The state of South Dakota wasn't sure how to handle it, and so there was no qualification tournament. They just let anybody and everybody go to state,
right?
And it was a mess because it was COVID year too. They didn't keep any team points for the girls, so it was unique. I'll use that word.
But at least that only lasted 1 year.
It was just 1 year,
1 season, one tournament.
Yep. And then the second year they straightened things out. And figured out that, hey, we're only going to allow 1 girl per weight class from each school to qualify. There was no tournament to qualify. It was just based on your season results. And they kept team points. And we took runner-up to peer. And we took runner-up to peer year 3, which was last year, and we were runner-up to them again this year. But we've closed that margin every year. This year, we were half point behind them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I remember that.
So the girls' team, in the 4 years that I've been fortunate enough to coach them, has been more successful than my first 4 years coaching the boys team. We didn't place in the top 8 my first 4 years with the boys. Once we got there, now, you know, their success is unheralded,
Right.
you know, with what they're doing too. But the boys now are very understanding, and they honor the girls program. They honor the girls wrestlers. They know that it's not just a flash in the pan. You know, Kiara's wrestled with some of the boys on the team in practices. Sarah has practiced with the guys at times.
She did a couple duels for them, didn't she?
Yeah, Sarah wrestled on the boys
Yeah,
team.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, she did that
last year.
last year as a junior, and competed well. And
Nice.
so the guys know that it's legit and that our girls are good, right? They enjoy watching them when we're at tournaments together. The boys cheer for the girls cheer for the boys. There's no animosity. There's no, right? The girls want to be as good as the guys. They want to have the same success the boys team is having, you know, and who knows, you know, maybe they'll have more,
Yeah.
you know, as time goes on.
Yeah, we will see. Sounds like a good segue to some future segments here.
Yeah.
We're gonna get
Yeah,
get
and you
Kiara
know,
up here.
you know, our numbers at Canton are very unique. Our girls wrestling numbers, and I think that's a testament to him.
Yes.
He takes a special man to coach girls wrestling. It's not anybody can do it. Contrary to popular belief, girls and boys are different. And you don't coach them the exact same. I'm not saying you're easier on them. I'm not saying you're harder on them. You just coach them differently.
Girls are like a lot more flexible, so that makes a big hit too.
Yeah, like you were talking about half Nelsons. They don't work on girls. Girls' shoulders are too flexible.
the arm will just flop way behind
Yep.
their head.
Yep. Kiara's sister does things
Very
Like-
unorthodox.
like puts herself in, like, she's like, I'm gonna pin myself so that I can pin you.
Yeah,
You know, it's
yeah.
like, whoa, okay, there we go. That worked. All right. You know, they're just different. And the weight cutting is different for girls. You know, they have biological differences that make weight cutting a completely different road. You know, it just is.
Yeah.
And I've coached female fighters along the road that same thing, different road, you know.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yep.
But man, it's been special to be a part of this Canton girls program, and just excited to beat Pierre. They've got us ranked like way down on the rankings this year. I guess they don't know what our bench looks like,
There you go. Well,
'Cause-
let them wonder.
because it's
Hit them.
yeah, it's gonna be ugly,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, we'll be just fine.
All right, Finley, well, you got any words of wisdom before we change segments? Any advice to other young girls wanting to wrestle?
Your age doesn't define how well you're gonna do. Like, it's your experience and your motivation. You can be like me, like a little 7th grader, and you can still win the state tournament. Like, age doesn't matter. You just have to try hard and should be able to do pretty good. You have to set goals.
Sounds like some great advice.
Come out and try it, right, Finn? That's what we want. We just want girls to try it.
Yes.
Right?
Just try it.
Yeah,
It's
and if it's
not that bad.
yeah, and if it's not for you, it's not for you. And if it is, which most of the girls who've tried it have found out that it is a place where they fit and where they can have some success and where they feel included and they feel a part of it, right? Because
It's another family.
it is. Yeah, it is. We work really hard, but we also have a lot of fun. We support each other. We do some funny stuff. I mean, we had 34 girls and only 12 of them got to have a chance at wrestling in the state tournament gym.
Right.
And a lot of them still came to support.
Yeah, and we were lucky that all 12 got in, so we qualified 12, but that you're still talking about 22 other girls who didn't have that opportunity, but those girls are all in. They're supporting. They know their role. But we talk about that too in practice. Iron sharpens iron, and so they're just waiting for their chance. And now that Kiara and Sarah and Jaron and Kiana and Kaylee all graduate, we have 5 seniors that were all place winners. that all graduate, we've got essentially five holes to fill. And so getting more girls out and keeping them excited and,
And the current bench that you have now as well.
Yeah.
To fill those holes.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, you guys. We're going to go ahead and change segments here.
Sounds
and
good.
Really appreciate you guys coming and doing this.
Yeah, thanks,
Had a
Jim.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right. All right. We're back with the next segment with Coach Ask and Kiara. And I'll ask you, Coach, kind of same as the previous one. What did you see in Kiara when you first saw her, first started coaching her, and how did that relationship begin?
Isn't it crazy how fast time goes? To be honest with you, it's almost difficult for me to remember exactly her first year, or even the first week and so on and so forth. But I remember the basketball thing, how she had decided that wasn't the path she wanted to follow anymore. I don't even quite remember like a conversation. Help me remember. What did you come to me and say, "Hey, I want to give wrestling a try. I'm done with basketball." How did that all transpire? Did you actually start practice that year?
Yeah, I think I quit basketball, and then I talked to Carly about it. I was like, dude, like I kind of want to wrestle. She's like, yeah, do it. She's like, ask about it. And I was like, okay, I got to quit basketball first. And then I quit basketball, and then my grandma finally gave me the okay. And then I think we had a conversation. I was like, I think I texted you.
Okay.
I was like, I want to try wrestling. You're like, yep, practice is at 5:45 tomorrow morning. You can come if you want. And you're like, I have shoes. And I was like, okay. And I was really nervous coming in there, and I walked in and it was hot. And I was like, ooh, I felt it felt good after practice, but like I was definitely nervous. That's for sure.
And so who would you have been practicing with back then?
Lizzie Wallace.
Oh, with Lizzie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it was, I think the first day I practiced was with Carly.
Okay.
Carly and I wrestled.
Yep.
And then, I believe it was Lizzie Wallace and I wrestled the whole rest of the season.
Cool.
And Carly Ballinger.
So that first season, spent a lot of time practicing with Lizzie, started with Carly. I think it's worth mentioning that when she talks about Carly, it's Carly Lawback. And Carly actually was one of our coaches this year. She joined the coaching staff.
I was going to ask about that, if there's
Yeah.
see some of that in the future or not.
Yeah, for sure. And Carly was big into trying to recruit right off the bat. And so testament to Carly, for getting Kiara in the room and giving it a go. And then you heard her say that she spent probably her first couple practices with Carly. And Carly was good. Carly didn't get beat in the 4 seasons. No, 3. 3. Because she wrestled, it started up her sophomore year. Yeah. So sophomore, junior, senior. She never got beat. She was a 3-time state champion for us. And
Wow.
yeah, never lost to a South Dakota opponent. And now she's coaching with us, which is super cool. And then you heard Kiara say she's considering, coming in the room and helping out and doing a little coaching now that she's done. And that for me as a coach, Jim, is huge, right? It means some really cool things. It means, number one, great relationships, right? I mean, as athlete coach, great relationship with her teammates. She has a great relationship with the sport of wrestling. If she actually desires to come back and try to give back to this team and to this program and this family, we call it, it means her experience was good. And that means everything to me.
So as a side note, you talked about nursing. In the first segment, I forgot to ask you where you're going to go do your nursing. Is it going to be local here?
Yeah, I'm going to SDSU.
SDSU,
So
okay.
only about an hour or so.
Okay. So were you talking about coaching during your schooling or getting your nursing done and then coming back for coaching?
Well, I might just kind of step in the room if I'm back for like break, like our
Right.
spring break or spring break, not spring break. It'd be
Like Christmas break.
Christmas
and,
break, yeah. And then
Thanksgiving break.
Yeah.
and getting in the room, because I know, like, I love to sit and work with, especially Izzy Baldwin and Mallory Baldwin. Like, I love beating up on those two during practice.
Oh man! We'll
Wait
see
till
if
they watch
see
this,
They'll come after you.
So yeah, I think what she's talking about is serving as kind of a volunteer.
Yeah.
You know, just showing up when she can and helping out. You know, because obviously it's a unique. Trying to coach at the high school level or middle school level is unique because there's not a lot of jobs or opportunities where you can walk away at 3 o'clock to go coach
Right.
for 2 hours or whatever. You know, most of your 9 to 5 jobs are 9 to 5. And so, but I think what she's saying is when she gets opportunities to sneak in during breaks and things like that, that she's going to do that. And it wouldn't be surprising to see Kiara show up at a Saturday tournament, you know, if her schedule allows, you know, or you'll probably text me and go like, hey, coach, can I jump on the bus and go with you guys to wherever? You know what I mean? Any tournament. And Gronky and I will always have open arms, you know, for our alumni girls to come along and help coach and be a part of it and keep building relationships because that's important.
Right. Is that a 4-year program? The nursing?
Yeah,
Okay,
4
so
years.
it's a full 4 years.
Yeah.
So you'll have all of those opportunities there, and then by the time you get done with that, you'll know if maybe when you're just a working stiff,
Yeah.
you know, then, and especially with the different nursing schedules, they could be maybe a little more flexible.
Yeah.
I know I
give
want
you
to.
more time to do it full time coaching with the girls.
Yeah, I know I want to be in the room a lot more, like because my sister, she's going to be a junior.
Junior, yeah.
Junior this year, and then a senior next year. So I definitely want to get in the room and at least make it to a couple meets so I can watch her wrestle because she's. Even when she wasn't on the team, she came to my stuff. So I suppose I better go to hers.
There you go.
Well, and your little sister has fallen in love with the sport of wrestling, right?
Yeah.
And she's tried a lot of different sports too. And Kenzie has found I would say her niche. Just really enjoys wrestling, likes the how do I describe this? Jim, you were talking to the girls earlier when you were interviewing the three of them, and Sarah said something about, you know, she liked the pain.
Yeah,
Right.
that surprised me. It was interesting.
Yeah.
Nick Joslin, who I took over for back when I came to Canton, he used to talk about wrestlers as having to be a little sadistic. And it's kind of true, right? You almost have to come to terms with the fact that in order to inflict pain on others, you're going to be getting pain as well, right? And so you got to be a little sadistic. You got to be like, oh yeah, I knew this was coming. You know what I mean? You got to be willing to accept that pain as well as dish it out. Mm-hmm. And these girls that are having a lot of success understand that, right? I mean, Kiara's faced a lot of opponents that are much bigger than her.
That's
much
what happens
bigger
with the higher weight classes like that.
Yeah.
They-
So she's been wrestling heavyweight for us. And the first year or first two, the limit was like 285 pounds. They were allowing the girls to be as big as the boys. And Kiara is just an athletic 200-pound girl.
Right.
I mean, she's athletic as any girl in the state of South Dakota at that weight. I'd put her against anybody. Mm-hmm. But 90% of the time she was stepping on the mat, she was having to give up 30, 40, even sometimes 50 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's tough. That's a lot to overcome. Doesn't matter how good you are. You know what I mean? And so for her at times, it was tough mentally on her because she knew and I knew that she was probably the better wrestler, but we would get beat sometimes because of size. And
Yeah, sorry. What would that do to your head when you came into the match, or you saw that you had to wrestle somebody so much heavier than you?
Well, I think my mindset definitely changed from like my senior year to my freshman year because like my freshman year, I was a little bit bigger my freshman year. So like I was like, oh gosh, this girl's got 30 pounds on me. Like I wrestled a girl from Sisseton who had height and weight on me, and I was just this little 5'7", probably like 220 my freshman year and 230. I was a bit bigger set, so I wasn't as worried. But like there were still girls that had like a lot of weight on me. But then coming up on like my junior and senior year, there's girls that are. The senior year got switched to 250, so it wasn't as bad.
Oh, okay.
But like last year, like after I got sick, when I lost all that weight and that muscle, and I was like, holy cow. And then I'd get them on my back and my neck. Oh, it was it was painful, but when I had beat them, I'd be like, yeah, like I
beat you, even though you're,
that's
so
I
much
think
bigger
what,
than me.
That's what I think kept me going is because I was like, I'm so much smaller than them and I'm beating them. So I know that it's not like weight does matter in wrestling, but I feel like if you have the, what's it called? The stamina and I can't think of that other word.
Fortitude.
Yeah. Stamina and if you,
Just
you
the
can,
mental, you
yeah.
mean? Yeah.
Because I know that I could, like the girls that I wrestled this year, like I could outlast them in the first period. Like some of them I wrestled, they were done for. And like I think I definitely took advantage of that because I was more agile and I felt like I could just run around the mat. And I was like, just run around on the mat with them. But
I was going to ask you, I figured in your mindset, when you start a match with somebody that outweighs you so much, it changes your tactics and you're probably a lot more cautious, especially like you say in that first round.
Yep.
That first period.
Yep.
Because of that. So.
And she learned that as she got experience. Not to take shots underneath, not to, you know what I mean? Like to try a high crotch or a double or, you know what I mean? Those straight on attacks for her, we learned quickly, like, no, we don't want to take those shots, especially on girls that are bigger than us that are just going to sprawl and make our life miserable. So that's
we
why.
We learned to work around that.
Yeah. Duck unders and drags.
My foot stomp.
And her foot stomp. I mean, when she's talking about her foot stomp, Jim, you got to, like.
Do you got any video of that?
Absolutely.
I got to see that.
That's how I pinned my girl at state for first.
Well, and that's how you beat your semifinals too.
Yep.
That's how she beat the hot girl.
That was a match.
So she ties up with them, right, and gets them moving around, gets them to step, and instead of basically remember the old heel pick.
Yep.
Instead of dropping down heel picking, Kiara just stomps on their
their
foot, so they can't pull it away, and then she uses her tie to take
That
them off
direction.
balance. Yeah. And then right to their back.
There's
and
nowhere to go.
Yeah, that's how she pinned her semifinal girl, and that's how she pinned
I'm
her
pretty sure that's
championship
how I
girl.
pinned every single girl at state.
Might have been.
And
yeah.
the rolls. My
Yeah.
junior year, I pinned or my sophomore year, I pinned everybody with the roll.
Everybody.
Everybody.
As soon as they'd come outside the framework for a crossface, she'd just attack that arm, right? And basically it's like climbing rope over your shoulder. She'd climb that rope and get that shoulder trap, and then she'd just pull them over their hip.
Yeah, like I was saying, when they're draped over your back,
Yeah.
you move your hips if they're low, shoulders.
Yep.
I mean, you can just feel their whole body. There's no slack
Yeah.
anywhere for that. That's a great feeling. My favorite, like I said, was the far side roll.
Yep.
My coach actually named it the Bradshaw roll for a few years after I left.
There you go.
But that's exactly what it reminded me of when you described it.
Yeah. I
earlier.
definitely learned that when where do we go? Malachek.
Yeah.
The Malachek camp, I wrestled the one, I think I was like 180, 185. And I wrestled 180, 185 there. And I was like, oh, these girls, like I wrestled girls who are bigger than them. Oh, these are nothing. I get out there, I lost my first match against this freshman. She was strong, like pure muscle.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy cow. Like, this is completely different. Like, and I tried to do my rolls on them. None of them, well, I got one of the girls with it, but like I tried it on that girl. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is a completely different ball game. Like, and it's only a couple pound difference. I was like, these are the girls that wrestle like I should be wrestling. But like, I'm so like caught up on how like I wrestled with heavyweight. So like all my tactics are heavyweight. And like when all these girls out there were like wrestling like normally, I'm like, whoa. And then I came back, or I lost to her, and then I wrestled this one other taller girl. She was like 6'1". She was gigantic. And I pinned her with a foot stomp. Or no, I think I got a double underhook and tripped her.
Yes.
And then I did that again to her that night. But then I wrestled the first girl that I lost to again, and we went all periods. Mm-hmm. It was insane, and I was insanely tired. But like,
and did you beat her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I came back and beat her, and I was ecstatic. I was like, yeah, this feels great.
But she learned she had to wrestle different. She had to be more technical, probably, than what she was with the heavyweights.
Are you able to flip that switch in the first period when you realize you misunderstood?
I feel like,
or did it bother
after
you
the
more?
first match, like the first match I had at the 180, 185, I was like, it took me like a minute or two to realize like, oh, this girl is not 285 pounds. We have to get we gotta we got to lock in up here. And
So that switch was between matches. It's a
Yeah.
little harder in the heat of the
Yeah.
battle.
yeah,
You just got to deal with it.
And Kiara's got a very good competitive mind set. She knows how to adjust during competition, Jim. She knew how to her mental approach. At times we struggled, right?
Yeah.
At times we, mentally things, but that's any person in any situation. But what you need to know about Kiara is she's a phenomenal volleyball player. She's a state place winner in disc,
shot.
in track and field. She was a basketball player. She's a great softball player. She plays catcher and I mean multiple positions in softball over the years. She's played with my daughters. I mean, this girl is an all around athlete, right?
Very athletic.
She's done anything Canton's offered pretty much.
And soccer.
She's done it. Yeah,
Was a little goalie.
yeah. So I mean, just very athletic. There's a lot of coaches. College coaches I'm talking about that are disappointed that she's choosing not to
I believe that.
go on and I'm not just saying wrestling. She could go play collegiate softball, she could wrestle, or she could do just about anything she puts her mind to. She just, again, talking about Finley having a lot of God-given natural ability. I talked to Kiara a lot during her career and kept reminding her of how many gifts God has given her and just although it's not always our favorite thing, right? Sometimes we just got to capitalize on what's God given us and, and glorify him and give it our best. And she bought into that. I mean, that's what makes our relationship so cool, right?
Yep. Even though we do like to butt heads a little bit.
Every now and then.
Every now and then. Just like that meet before state, it was conference, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He was like, I was being a little mean that day. And it was just one of those days I'm like, I don't want to wrestle. I want to go home. I want to lay in bed. And it was just one of those like mental days that I was like, I just need to be done. Like I want to crawl up in a ball and cry. And I got after her a little bit.
He
did. He did.
Explained to her what I needed from her as a
Yep.
teammate and as a leader and as a senior.
And he like pulled me to the side. He's like, listen, he's like, where do you want to be at the state tournament? I said, well, I want to win. He goes, well, you got to, he's like, and then he, like he said, he explained to me, he's like, you got to do this. You're a leader. He's like, girls are looking up to you. He's like, we have a month left. He's like, and you're going to be on that podium. He's like, you're going to be holding that bracket. You're going to have that medal. And he's like, but you have to keep or what did you say? You have to keep in or keep locked in or something like that.
Yeah. You
And-
can't,
Nope.
You can't bail out.
Because I was on
today.
a roller coaster. Because like I'd have weeks where I'm at tippy top. I'm like good. And I was like, yeah, let's wrestle. And I'd have weeks I'm like, get me out of this room right now. Take my shoes. Leave me be.
And it was at those times, right, that as a coach, I had to find ways to try to motivate her and to try to remind her of those gifts and of the opportunity that she had in front of her. And I hugged her in practice one day and told her like, hey, you can, you might hate me today and you might hate me tomorrow, but at the end of February, you're going to love me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it wasn't just a suck it up talk, was it?
No,
No.
it was he beat me in a wrestling match, 6 minutes straight wrestling with him, and then he goes, because I have like every Wednesday I left early for work, so we always worked a little bit before everybody did, and then
and
I'd
I
end up wrestling with him at the end, and he'd kind of kick my butt, make me all sweaty and gross, and then he's like. And then I remember that practice because I left the room bawling, but like it wasn't sad tears. It was like I gotta open my eyes. Like he sees something in me that I like don't like think I see in myself. And like that's how he's always been. Is like I've known Ask since like because I used to play softball with his daughter Autumn. So like I've known him for a while. He's seen me play sports, but then I loved wrestling my freshman, sophomore year, and then all of a sudden I was like, I don't know, like it was tough. It was mentally tough on me, and like I'm not so much of like a mentally tough person. I kind of just like hide it all. I'm like straight face, like poker face, and then I think like that talk that he had with me at practice, he's like, you're gonna love me at the end of February, and I left the room like in tears, and I was like, holy cow, like somebody is like seeing something in me that I'm not, and that like really opened my eyes. And I was like, I was like, it's time to put our head in the games and
Dig in
get
and-
going.
yeah.
Through this whole story, what was going through my head was you obviously doing the right thing, you taking it the right way, and but it's also going to toughen you up mentally for nursing school. It's going to move on. It's not just going to be this physical stuff. It's going to carry on.
We talk about that all the time, right? If you can get through the sport of wrestling, and if you can get through the trials and tribulations that you have between your ears, because there's hard times and tough times and up times and down times, you know, if you can get through that, like Dan Gable said, after you've wrestled, everything else in life should be relatively easier. And yeah, she's prepared. She can go on. This girl can do anything she sets her mind to. Yeah.
Were there any special moves or certain moves that you were teaching her based on her abilities and skills that you saw? Or how do you go about teaching? I mean, you don't teach everybody the same moves the same way.
Right. And so this year went really well, and she'd agree, because we got Coach Cameron Gronke came to town, and Gronke was the head girls coach over at Viborg prior to that, and doing a really nice job with that small school with their girls team. He had good numbers out. They were being really successful. And so kind of like Nick Joslin went after me way back in, 2000, I went after Gronke. I knew I wanted that guy over in Canton helping with our girls program. He's the guy that I want to be leading the team into the future. And ironically, they lived in Canton. They had bought a house in Canton because his wife lives up in Sioux Falls, works up in Sioux Falls. Anyhow, having Gronke in the room, he's a big dude. And so he spent a lot of his every day in the practice room working with Kiara, with Izzy, with Mallory, with Corey, with
The biggie corner.
yeah.
The biggie
the
corner.
biggies. Yeah, and that's what he called them. But so they had a coach kind of to themselves, really. He was focused on them. And so
Like a lineman coach.
yeah, kind of. Yes.
Because before he would ask like just showed moves, and like some of those moves I couldn't do.
Don't work for
No, because I'm not gonna go hit a
low single.
a low single on
Yeah.
a girl who's 280 pounds. I
Yeah.
would get crushed.
Yeah.
And then Gronke would always we do moves, like all of us would do moves together, and then there'd be like one move. Gronke's like, all right, let's do this. Like he would always work around so that we got something out of it too, and it's not just like all like the 113s, the 106, and like the 100 pounds. Like all of them, they can do practically anything. And I was like, if I were to do that, no.
Yeah.
It would
He was
not.
analyzing.
Yeah, definitely
It was
different.
it was good to have him, and he
Yeah.
would come over there to the biggie corner too. But
Yeah. But for Kiara, going back to like coaching her differently, it was always easy to coach her because she was very athletic. You know what I mean? And like we talked about, her biggest hurdle, first 3 years especially, was dealing with girls that were way bigger in size. And so just learning techniques where we avoided being underneath is what we focused on a lot. You know what I mean? Beating people with our athleticism, with shape, with quickness, and with being cunning. You know what I mean? But now this past season, huge having another guy in the room or coach in the room that could work specific techniques for them was great. And then Coach Carly Lawback was in the room and wrestled with Kiara quite a bit when she had the opportunity, because she's playing college volleyball at DWU. And she came back during Christmas breaks and Thanksgiving breaks and whenever she had an opportunity to help. And so she was wrestling with them. And then we had Jason Bartels in the room as well. So it's
Jason
Jason
gave me my first bloody nose in my entire wrestling
Really?
career. Yep.
yeah. So Jason wrestled with her too. So, as this program is growing, and it's growing leaps and bounds in 4 years, but as it's growing, it's cool for me to see the support and the people that we're bringing in. My first year, it was pretty much just me and Parker.
Yeah. And Parker would
Right?
step in. And Seibel.
Oh yeah,
would come
Seibel.
in-
Yeah,
he'd
that's
come
right.
in
Yeah, Seibel would help a
couple
little
times.
bit.
Yep.
But we were all guys that were coaching the men's team, and then we were just devoting extra time to coach the girls. And then year 2, it was Parker again, and he and I both learned really quickly, like, that's a lot, to try to coach all that in the morning and the other in the afternoon. So So it's grown to a really unique situation, and she's been able to be coached by a lot of different people, and I would definitely say that's attributed to her success.
Nice. This is so interesting for me. I just, cause, like I said, I hadn't been even to a state tournament since I actually went years ago. I made it twice. Didn't do anything once I got there, but just being reinvigorated with the wrestling. We had a couple guys that lived around the acreage here that I followed back in the day. Matt Baird and some of the Tuntland boys, and we just kind of slid away from watching sports in the area and got busy and all that. But I'm loving these stories. This and just being the girls portion of it in particular.
Yeah.
And then having two girls in that I go to church with as well.
Yeah.
Involved in there, and then meeting you.
Yeah.
And it's enjoyable.
It's phenomenal how much it's growing, how fast it's growing, Jim. Right now, girls wrestling is the fastest growing sport scholastically in the United States. And South Dakota still has a long ways to go. We are our program is very unique. When we talk about having 34 girls, we have more girls on our girls team than most of the B schools in South Dakota have on their boys teams. So when we tell people we have 34, they almost fall down, in disbelief that we have those kinds of numbers. We are very fortunate because of where we're at geographically. Like we talked about, we go over and wrestle in Iowa right away at the beginning of the season,
And Nebraska.
and Nebraska, and those two states have 4 to 5 to 6 times the number of girls out that we do.
Okay.
Their two states are going gangbusters. In fact, both of those states have grown big enough now that just this spring, their athletic associations voted, and they're going to split their girls into 2 classes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there's enough girls to justify having like an A and a B, right?
It's moving.
Yeah, we're still just going to be one class probably for the next, 3, 4, 5 years, is my guess. It just depends on how much these other schools decide to invest and commit to their girls wrestling teams. In Canton, they're paying us 2 coaches, and we're already talking about needing a 3rd paid coach because of our numbers. Most other schools aren't paying anybody separate to help coach the girls. They're just kind of part of the boys team, and they're just kind of in a corner, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of them.
Sure.
And they're not running on a separate schedule like we are, where we're going to big girls events, tournaments. They're not running over into Iowa and down in Nebraska. Now other schools are starting to see what we're doing, and they're starting to jump, kind of jump on board.
Do you know, is girls wrestling popular on the East and West Coast?
Yes.
So are they a ways ahead of us also?
I would say California, West Coast has been big for a number of years.
Okay.
East Coast is probably a little bit behind, but they're getting there because East Coast wrestling for boys, especially Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania is huge for boys wrestling, men's wrestling. And now they've committed to girls, but we sanctioned South Dakota well ahead of most of the eastern states. So, yep.
Nice. Have any regrets that you've felt through the wrestling at all, or has it been besides the one instance you were talking about when you got pretty low? What's your overall impression?
I don't really have any regrets. I don't really regret much in my life, but I'm glad that I went out for wrestling. Like, it definitely helped me with mental and physical confidence, and I got to meet a lot of great people, so that was cool. And I always loved, I love contact sports and like aggressive, and I love conflict. We'll just say that. I love conflict. And I think I started liking that because it was my basketball, I think it was my 8th grade year, my basketball game, my last basketball game. And I was fighting with this girl for a ball, and I ripped her to the ground, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's my cup of tea. And
I've always heard things about girls basketball, the roughness compared to boys basketball even.
yeah, because we get angry out there. And I knew, I was like, I don't know. I think I I think I seen Carly Laback wearing a singlet, and I was like, that needs to be me. Like, I need to wrestle. Like, I get to get on a mat and wrestle girls without any rules, pretty much. I get to throw them around like a rag doll. Yeah, let me get out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, the first year I was like, we had our like tight compression shirts and shorts, and I was like, yuck, why do I look like that? And I was like, and then sophomore year came around, and we got our singlet. We got our first singlet, and it was our blue and white Canton one. And I absolutely loved being in that thing. I was like, this is where I'm meant to
Get
be.
those shoulders up.
Yeah. And I definitely, like, I used to, like, during, like, meets, I would always, like, hide myself. And I was like I was not confident in, like, what I looked like my freshman and sophomore year. And I think my sophomore year state match, my like, championship match, I was like, that was against Sierra, wasn't it? Yep. And I got second, and then I was like super down on myself, and everybody's like, Kiara, like, this is your second year. They've got weight on you. Like, you're not a horrible wrestler like you're talking about yourself right now. Cause like I was like, oh my gosh, like I got second. Like, why am I doing so bad? Why am I not getting first? I was like, I was not thinking about anything good. I was just negative. And I was like, okay, this has to stop. And then I think after my sophomore year, I was like, yeah, like wrestling is where I need to be. Like I do some days, and yeah, some days there's some days, and I get in those moods, and I'm like, I kind of shut down as like a person, and like even with sports, like I have that with like volleyball, with softball, track, and like even in like my everyday life, like I'm like, I just want to shut down and be by myself.
It's just built-in mental breaks.
Yep.
Is kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and then
So don't feel terrible about it, but
No.
you're learning how to work through it,
Yep.
especially with his help.
And then I'd go and practice, and I'd get beat, and I'd be getting beat by like girls that I throw around like every day, and I was like, I'd start getting all in my head and getting mad, and then all of a sudden Coach Ash is like, come here, Kiara, come here. I'm like, oh my gosh. But it was kind of nice being able to like have other girls like beat on me too, like, and not just like, I like when they throw things on me and they get excited, and I was like, yeah, let's go. Like,
they get to have their
Yep.
days,
Yep.
and you get to experience the bad days
Yeah.
to build you mentally, which
Yeah.
builds you physically to keep moving on.
Because that's what I liked when I worked with Izzy and Mallory. Like, they're more like, Mallory and Izzy are very timid people when it comes to contact. Me, no. I love teaching those two. Like, those are my two girls that I would teach everything to. And I was like,
Your students.
yep, they're my students. And there's a video of me during one of Izzy's match where she wrestled. We were at this Nebraska one, I believe, or maybe it was a Mitchell. It was a meet that was rescheduled, and there was this little 8th grader girl that didn't want to wrestle with me, so she wrestled with Izzy, and Izzy's in there tying up with her, and I'm on the mat, and I'm like stomping on my foot. I'm like, toe stop, toe stop. And it's in her recording on the iPad. And I was like just screaming at her. I was like, Izzy, hit the toe stop. And she hit it, and I was like ecstatic. I was jumping, I was cheering. And I was like, that's kind of like what I love about wrestling most, is because I get to like there's like little things. Like, I can't do like what Sarah can do. I can't do a single. I can do a blast
Sweep
double,
single,
apparently.
yeah.
Luke wants me to throw a blast double on about everybody possible. But I like seeing like the girls use stuff that like I use on like the heavyweights, like especially when Izzy hit that toe stomp. I was like, oh, I do that. I was like, she learned that from
And I coached her to
me.
do it.
And I think that's my favorite part of wrestling, is definitely, I love like helping other people with like stuff, what I can help with. Cause like, I'm not very much of a offensive shooter, but
And seeing your teammates succeed.
yeah.
Like, there's a lot of
Yep.
excitement and energy in that, especially in our whole program.
Yeah.
You know, going back to Finley, for instance, when we were talking about how other girls, Luke had apprehensions, like how are these older girls going to handle Finley and her success, right? Are they going to be jealous and
Right.
mean and catty? Or are they going to, love her up and embrace her? And I think it's pretty easy for you to say, it's impossible to not love Finley.
It's
again.
impossible to not love that girl. She is.
Because she's so humble and she's so loving and she's so caring about her teammates, right? I mean, if you had a down match or a down day on our team, who's the first person that's always
Finley.
at
She'd
the
come
edge
up
of the
and hug
mat,
me.
to hug
Yep.
you and console you and tell you you're doing great, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's just who that girl is. And again, Jim, back to what you said, that a lot of how she's raised, and you know what I mean, what she's just what Luke has taught her and Amy's taught her, and so it was never an issue this whole season. Not
at all.
one time
Yeah.
was it an issue with Finley's level of success on the team.
Yeah, you and Sarah, great friends of Finley's.
Yeah.
Such
And I
great
played
support.
our softball season. I played with Finley, and it was like I loved having Finley as a teammate in wrestling, and I was like, shoot, like I'm never gonna have Finley again. And all of a sudden, she's on the softball team. I was like, and I caught for her. She was a pitcher. I was a catcher. I was like, holy cow! Like I got to be with Finley again. Like
And how cool is that as
Yeah.
a senior
Yeah.
and a seventh grader?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So she will follow Finley for the next 5 years, and who knows, probably beyond.
probably longer than that.
Yeah,
She goes
because
into
that
the
girl,
Olympics. I know
yeah,
she
that,
can.
that
She's-
girl will go probably wrestle at the next
Yep.
levels. Yeah. So
Yeah, so you explained how you're moving on to the nursing and seeing the excitement of how you're talking right now. Have you figured out a way to fill that hole
Like,
when you move on of the wrestling, the feelings you're talking about?
well, I kind of I don't know. I feel like that hole can't be replaced with anything.
Right.
Like
Not a
it's
replacement.
not gonna be like a hole. It's kind of like it's still with me, but not as much as like when I was in high school. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'll see people that like I know. Like the other day I was at a family bonfire and there was a couple silly guys who were like, "Oh, you're a state champ. Let's wrestle." And I beat them, and they're like, "Oh,
you wrestled with them
I did
at
I
this
beat-
bonfire.
Yep."
Oh dear Lord.
And that's probably why my knees are all.
Did
beat
you use
up.
the toe stomp?
I did.
Nice.
I did. But it's definitely
Well, there you
I'll-
go, Jim. You're
yeah.
talking about being able to handle themselves.
Yep.
You know,
Exactly.
I mean, this is just a social fun situation,
Yeah.
but you know, if you ever needed to essentially defend yourself,
yeah.
you know how to scrap. That's the word we use a lot. is Scrap.
Absolutely. Yep.
You know, these
Yeah.
girls know how to scrap. I mean, they know how to fight, right, and fight back, not to just go into fetal position and be a victim.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So we're at the point, I think, here. What's your advice for girls that might be thinking about this to help his cause about just trying it?
Definitely go out. It is a tough sport, but it helps you as a person mentally and physically, and you make a lot of memories and a lot of friendship, and you gain a family that you never thought you would have had. Like if you would have asked me 5 years ago if I would have been in this big wrestling family, I would have been like, absolutely not. I'm not touching a sweaty girl. No. But it is the adrenaline and the friendship and the love and the community is insane. Like it is the best community like I think I've ever seen. Like it is insane to be into. Like the support is unreal. Like
The number of people that
yeah.
see her and talk to
Yep.
her and say, "Hey, great job. Love watching you compete." Think about I want to add to this. Think about your dad and think about your grandpa and grandma, right? Like 5 years ago, if you would have
Yep.
told them that they were going to end up being big wrestling, fans and be a part of the family, the program.
My dad would have laughed in my face.
Exactly.
He'd been like, "No, you're putting those basketball shoes on.
Yeah,
You're running up
'cause
and down the court."
Her dad, big basketball guy.
Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
basketball guy.
He knew nothing about wrestling whatsoever at
Yeah.
all. Neither did my grandma.
Yeah. And now they are all in.
Yep.
All
Nice.
in. Yeah.
Well, like you said, leaving the wrestling is not a hole.
Yep.
It's a chapter in your book.
Yep.
You're not going to rewrite it, but you can go back and reread it whenever you want.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'll step in the room obviously because I need to see if I can still beat on him when I'm
Perfect.
because I'm hitting that weight room in college. So I'll see if I
better
can
look out.
see if I can throw him around when I come
yeah.
back.
I better
Oh,
look
yeah.
out.
All right. Well, thanks again, you guys. Really appreciate this. I hope you had as much fun as I did.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
All right. You bet. All right. We're back with Coach Ask, Sarah, and her father, Chris. And first thing I was going to do is start it off was just go ahead and ask you, when did you first hear about her wanting to wrestle? What went through your mind? Were you just fine with it right off the bat? Did you have to think about it for a while, or what went through your head?
Well, she came to us right in the beginning there, I guess, when everything was being talked about, and said she'd like to try wrestling. And we were kind of surprised, but we thought, well, she does like to try new things. And I guess coming from Iowa, where we were living, I didn't know she had a friend that had done some girls wrestling, and yeah, we figured give it a whirl. And of course, it's really grown and become something a lot more bigger than we had imagined, I think, even. But we're glad for her that she's found something that's so interested in. She enjoys doing it, and it's made quite an impact in her life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just to let you know, Sarah had to leave for a while after the first segment. Went and do track practice, getting ready for state tournament or state track meet coming up. Mm-hmm. So she's come back, and you don't look too awful tired, but you had to go do a little workout, didn't you?
Yeah.
How'd it go?
It was good. It wasn't too terrible.
Yeah. So what did Heidi think of her wanting to wrestle, your wife there?
Yeah, she was, we talked about it, and she was good with it, and, I was good with it. There were a few things I was kind of wondering about, but figured, well, let's try. I don't know much about this, so let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm. So did you end up, you did wrestle some boys, because then I think in one of the segments when you were gone, you filled in on the boys team. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So they didn't have a 113-pounder last year. So the boys coach, Swenson, he asked me to join their dual team as a 113-pounder. And I did some 120 at the end because one of the boys was able to go down to 113. Mm-hmm. And I went to a tournament. That was probably my favorite tournament because I placed there. I got fourth at the boys tournament. And then I also went to a few duels with them, and I went to the state duels with them.
That tournament, was that like an 8-team tournament?
Oh, no.
And you got fourth? Or
16
wow.
Minimum. It might have been like an 18 teams there that day or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Things have changed so much since my day.
Yeah.
I mean, there was times where we'd just have little tournaments that were like 4 teams on a Thursday night, something like that. Otherwise, most of my stuff was duels. We didn't have near the quantity of matches that these people do nowadays. I don't know if I would have held up to it or not, but I see the stats and the numbers, and it's like, you guys wrestle your tails off in one season.
Yeah, there's a vast difference, right? I graduated high school in 1990, and it was a big deal. And I grew up in Iowa. It was a big deal if you could hit that 100-win mark in 4 years, because you're only wrestling 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. In South Dakota now, they let kids compete 7th and 8th grade as well. But they definitely get a lot of matches. And I think there's a point too, Jim, where there's probably too many. You know what I mean? Our schedule, we actually don't fill every single weigh-in spot that we could. Mm-hmm. I'm happy if I can see our athletes get somewhere in the 40 to maybe 50 match limit, but you'll see some teams that kids are ending the season at 60 to 65 matches, which is just insane. That's a lot. Hard for their bodies, tough on their bodies to stand up to all that.
Now that we're on that, I was going to ask you earlier, but I forgot. When I was coming up, I didn't start till 7th grade, and I had to battle with my mom to let me do that, and wasn't involved in AAU, but we had a couple guys that were, and from a very young age, and people were always saying, boy, wait till that guy becomes a junior, senior, he's going to be a powerhouse, this and that. But with the few that I saw more burnout than improvement, I thought. Do you think that's changed nowadays? How does a lot of wrestling prior to freshman year affect good, bad, or indifferent?
Translate. This is a whole nother topic.
Yeah,
Youth sports is kind of how I'd sandwich it all in. Youth sports in general, Jim, youth basketball, youth football, youth wrestling. Obviously our topic here is mainly wrestling, and youth wrestling has gotten huge, right? Everybody's hosting tournaments. Every club's trying to, make some money to help with their expenditures and to support their teams, their high school teams during the seasons. But it's not all good. I see a lot of young kids get pushed into the sport of wrestling really early by moms and dads a lot of times that are overzealous.
Yeah, I've seen
right?
a few that I'd like to talk to myself with the very little that I saw.
Yep. And I've seen it way too much over my years, because I was youth coach and I've been around that whole system forever with my own son wrestling and so on and so forth. But there's a lot of kids who get pushed into the sport a little too early, a little too young. They don't necessarily want it as much as mom or dad wants it.
Yep.
And then they, by the time they hit middle school and freshman year, they're done. Like
Right.
I've pleased you enough. This isn't fun for me anymore type thing. Sometimes the best parents, Chris, are the people who, and this is a tribute to you guys, people who don't have high expectations and don't necessarily know much about the sport, and so don't have any coming in. They don't have any what am I trying to say? Preconceived thoughts or expectations or notions, whatever. They're just supportive. I mean, the whole time Sarah has wrestled, you and Heidi have just been supportive of her.
Yeah.
You've been there for her when she wins. You've been there for her when she loses. You've loved her, right? You've continued to love her. It doesn't her wins and losses didn't ever change how you talked to her or how you treated her or and unfortunately, there's a lot of crazy parents out there who, a kid will lose and all they hear about the whole ride home is, and you and I have heard about some of our teammates sometimes or other girls that you've been around in clubs. And I know you've been around some kids, at LOG too, that, they lose and it's like, oh my gosh, now I got to face mom or dad or whoever, for the next 2 hours chewing on me about, I should have done this, I should have done that. And that's not what it should be about.
Right.
The parent's role is to support and love and be there for them and just support them.
Help
just
them grow as a person.
Yeah.
Instead of knocking them down.
Well, I think too, from a parent perspective, having been around sports now for a number of years as parents, watching our kids do sports and being around other parents, it's almost like, parents want success for their children so much, and so do my wife and I. But I guess number one, we didn't even know enough about wrestling to be critical if we wanted to. And then
Just a W or an L.
Yeah. And then, go ahead.
I've talked to so many people that are like, well, what did your parents say anything to you after you didn't win? Or I don't want to go talk to my parents now. I don't want to do this because I know I'm not going to lose and I'm going to get in trouble. I'm like, that's never been the case for me.
Yeah.
And if that was, that wouldn't be fun.
Right. And you probably wouldn't have the passion for the sport that you do.
And
right.
Some of these kids, they go to practice and they're there because, oh, my dad made me. Oh, my mom made me. And I'm there because I want to be there.
Right.
Because I don't like when people make me do stuff.
Yeah.
Huge difference in motivation. That's like day and night.
Right. Would you be going to college and wrestling if you had a parent that would have been doing that to you all the time? No. Yeah, highly doubtful, right? Because your love for it, your own personal growth and satisfaction and your feelings towards the sport are all based on you. But you've had unconditional support at home throughout your whole career, right? And that is what I wish every one of my athletes that I coached. That's my hope and wish, is that they each would have that. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's not easy to coach parents or to coach adults. But I tell you what, there's times I want to take adults by the ear and take them out behind the shed and say, listen, don't wreck your kid. Don't make them feel that their worth and your level of love for them is based at all on their success,
right?
Or whether they win or lose. That shouldn't be it at all. That's not what the big picture of all this is about. The big picture of all this is, letting people try something and finding, like for Sarah, she found the sport of wrestling, right? She's very good also as a track athlete, and she's done dancing, gymnastics, right? Soccer. She's done a variety of sports, and is a natural athlete like Kiara. She could be successful at whatever it is she finds, but she found wrestling, and wrestling found her, and she's given everything she's got towards it. She's been, she's learned the grit and the determination and the drive and the work that it requires to be successful. But she's also learned how to deal with adversity and how to, to understand that even if you put in all the work in the world, it never, means that you're just going to get your hand raised because you worked super hard.
Right.
There's still, you got to go, put it in God's hands and do the best that you can. And, the outcomes are going to be what the outcomes are. But Sarah's very unique in that she has been in my 4 years of us together, her and I, as an athlete and coach, has been very unique because she showed me right away, Jim, that there's no difference between girls and boys. Going back to when this first happened, there's no difference between girls and boys when it comes to commitment and work ethic and determination. She taught me that immediately. And it was a good lesson for me to learn as a coach, right? Because I wasn't certain how hard girls were going to be willing to work versus boys, okay? I wasn't certain how dedicated girls were going to be, to a sport, especially a combat sport like wrestling, as much as boys, right? I wasn't certain about those things. And Sarah taught me right away that there's virtually no difference, and that a young lady can be just as tough and just as driven and just as, hard work oriented. I mean, this is a girl that gets up and works out still, comes into the weight room. Now the season's over, Jim, and I open the weight room up at 6 a.m., 6:15 a.m., and she's in there. There's just, again, like Finley, there's people that are driven, and have goals and they set things for themselves. And I'm rambling on and on and on, but I a lot of that has to do with Sarah has made decisions as a person that she wants to get this accomplished. She knows that if she works hard, she has the opportunity to do special things and to see success and to, get that hand raised. And she's had the support of amazing parents the whole time along. And that's why her success, I would say, has been at the level it's been at.
Right. And you might have answered already, Sarah, but what age were you when you started wrestling?
I was a freshman, so I was 13.
Okay, so that's what I thought. Just the 4 years here is when, what was your exposure to that again?
It got sanctioned, and so me and a friend were like, should
that's
try
right.
it.
That's right. Okay. What was your favorite part about watching her matches?
Well, it
couple
was a
favorites.
little nerve-wracking,
Yeah.
especially in the beginning. I'll tell you, that first match, I remember it well. When you went out there, you would look confident. And as a parent, I just said, well, I don't know what's going to happen. And my wife and I looked at each other like, I don't know. But you were so confident and calm. And even that first match, and you more than held your own against what we found out later was a very formidable opponent. And, we just kind of followed your progress in it. And it's been such a ride. Incredible. So it's been amazing to just watch you grow and do things that have been just remarkable. So we're definitely proud parents to see her do that, especially starting from virtually nothing in terms of any wrestling background, other than the friend from Iowa that you, and I know you knew about it. You knew something of it, but she really was on a learning curve and she did so well.
And now and now for your opportunity to get to watch her continue.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
And go
yeah,
on and
that's-
compete, because when they talk about the percentage of high school athletes that go on and compete in any sport collegiately, it's very small.
Right.
Right. And so again, Sarah's part of a very small and unique group and culture that's taking their athletic abilities and endeavors onto the next level. And yeah, you guys are very fortunate, Chris.
Going to
I mean,
have to
yeah,
increase
you know,
their home travel budget.
yeah, for sure. Well, and and Noah's competed
Yes.
in track and field and done a lot there, and they've chased around and supported him in that as well. And so yeah, they've definitely put their time in the bleachers.
Well, we've been blessed too.
Yep.
We didn't know, what they were going to be able to accomplish, and it's been far more than what we ever thought, was going to happen.
What did you observe with the winning versus losing versus what you perceived as her mindset after wins, losses, how she held on to them? Did it affect her much, or did she just go straight back in there to win that next one?
Oh, Sarah's very competitive, and like many athletes, doesn't like to lose, and that's a good thing in a way. Is you need to learn to deal with some of those emotions too, and anybody can deal with success, but I think it's learning how to persevere through the tough times that really build our character.
Yeah.
And she's done a great job of learning, and I know at one point. She was, I think the difference between the first and second season, we saw so much progress. And I think she told me once that, I think you told me that you had taken some of the things that were used on you and translated into your kind of things you were going to do now against your opponents. And that second season, you came up with a lot more tools in the toolbox. So just watching her grow like that has been remarkable.
That brought me back to the past because there's a guy named Tim Hora from Freeman, and he would pin me. I mean, he was farm boy. He had like orangutan arms, great guy, and he would pin me with what we called the figure four around the head, where you could pin somebody and not even use your hands,
Right.
as long as you could get them flipped. And I don't know if it was district tournament, regions, or something. And we had just got done, and he beat me again. And I brought him over to the side. I says, dude, you got to show me that. And he's just looking at me. I said, even if you show me, I'll never get it on you. So he's like, well, let's do this. And I think I pinned my next 3 matches with the same move, something
Really?
like that. Not at that tournament,
Right.
but at the duels afterward.
Yeah.
That's what that just reminded me of.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're bringing me back here, guys.
What she's and that Sarah's very much a student of her craft, wrestling. Many people outside of the sport of wrestling might view it as, whatever, it's just a combat sport. It's kind of barbaric, so on and so forth. But Sarah will be the first to tell you, wrestling is very much like a chess match. There's a lot of thought and a lot of setting up of your opponent to get them into positions you want them in order to score effectively and efficiently without tiring yourself out severely. You know what I mean? There's pace of a wrestling match that you have to control. The time on the clock, where you're at technically, or geographically on the mat, are you in the middle, or are you near the edges? And so she's always been a very good student of the sport. But Sarah's also a very good student academically, and I see that a lot when I coach athletes that are cerebral, that they're also, a lot of times it translates to how they compete. And, she's always competed very smartly. So it doesn't surprise me to hear you say that, Chris, that she took, some of those losses and probably watched video and decided like, okay, I got to learn how to do that so that I can translate it and use it against my opponents. And now I want to tell a story. When I was coaching the boys team, probably 15 years ago, we got asked to duel Jackson County Central out of Minnesota up at the Elman Center before an Augustana duel. So that was kind of a premier thing, right? They invited in a couple of pretty good high school teams, and they were going to duel it out. And then afterwards, we stayed and watched the collegiate duel.
Nice.
And so it was a big deal for me. I was, I'd been at Canton for maybe 10 years at that point or something like that, or 8 years. And I was excited to take my team there and compete hard, hopefully. And we got handled. Like, Jackson County Central was good, and they had a good group of boys going through at the time, and they beat us at the front head position almost the entire night, the entire duel. We would take a shot, they'd put us in front head. If we didn't take a shot, Sarah, they'd snap us down, put us in front head, and then they'd all run head in the hole and just run it to perfection. And they were scoring on us and putting us to our back. And I came home from that duel, and I told myself, like, I'm going to teach my team how to do that move and be that effective out of that front headlock position. And we went to work on it. And I still think our boys, even now, and I haven't been heavily involved with the boys the last couple of years, we are still probably the best team in the state of South Dakota when it comes to that position. And who it is to thank? Not me. It's Jackson County Central.
Right.
That's who we got to thank, whoever that coach was at that time, because I learned a valuable lesson that position is important. If you can win a lot of matches from there. So we learned.
Yeah.
But Sarah did the same thing.
Yeah, Sarah, we talked to Kiara about that, because we talked about with her weight class, there were some people that were much heavier, but that can also be a skill level. So I asked her, is she able to turn that switch in the middle of a match? If you go into something expecting something and it's way different, are you able to change your strategy, or how do you do that? What's that do to your mind? Or do you just pretty much go with the flow on that match and then do that switch for the next one?
I mean, I don't like seedings. I hate looking at those because they get into my head. I don't like knowing who I have next. I hate when people come up to me and are like, oh, you have this person? I'm like, trying not to know. But I go to the side and I tell myself I'm the best. Like, I work harder and I'm the best. And I go out there and I've learned hand fighting is crucial. I get pushed around and have gotten pushed around with hand fighting. And if someone doesn't, usually with the lighter weights, they're fast. So I'm always expecting a shot. And so I guess that's what I'm looking for in hand fighting. So I don't really know if there's a ton of difference. I mean, there's different skill levels that I wrestle, but I always go out there, telling myself I'm the best.
I think when I was talking about your really quick shot that I saw at state tournament, it was a hand fighting thing. And there's pushed your head just a little too hard once. And I was way up in the stands, but I could just see, and it's just like your face turned, and wham, you just went straight. You were pissed off.
Yeah.
And I will say, I love watching you wrestle, even though it wasn't a ton, but I loved watching you wrestle when you were mad.
At Legends of Gold, that I've wrestled a lot of boys there, and they don't like when I beat them, or even if they've been pounding on me the whole entire time and I get something, they get mad, and then they go and do something that they shouldn't have, and then I get it again, and they get mad. And then
work on their head.
Yeah, and then they like to push me around, and then that makes me mad, and so I go and get something else, and I think I just don't like being pushed around.
Well, and the other thing I've noticed too, Sarah, and I really admire about the way you wrestle, is you're so patient. You let it come to you. You wait for your opponent to make a mistake, and you're right there. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, she's always been very under control that way. Doesn't come out and just start firing away. And we had conversations about that. Like, we don't need to come out and shoot and waste our energy and do those kinds of things. Sarah has looked to improve her skills and get more mat time by going to LOG, which is a choice. Again, she's done that on her own. She's wanted to improve and jump levels. And so she's put in that time and that work down there. And so she's had the opportunity to be coached by a variety of different people too, which is always a great thing.
Right.
You know, it hasn't just been me that has coached Sarah over the last 4 years. She's been coached by a variety of people. So she's seen a lot of different techniques. She's seen a lot of different, you know, variety in how to do techniques. She's probably heard a lot of different variety in the mental part of the game. But yeah, she makes adjustments going back to, you know, during match. She's always been very good at making adjustments from one period to the next, or even in the middle of a period. She's always done a really good job of listening to me too, for the most part, which I appreciate.
So with starting being a spectator, did it take a while to start learning what the moves were, to understand more what she was doing on the mat, or did that come pretty quickly?
Yeah, we're still learning, I think, but I think wrestling is just this whole other world that we were introduced to, and the scoring of points, the strategy, the mental thought, the waiting for your opponent to make a mistake, all of these things. I didn't realize how much thinking and strategy there really is in just the mental aspect of it. And it's fascinating. We've both found it very, very interesting to learn, and we still do.
And now that you finally got folk style all figured out, now he's
That's
got to learn freestyle.
That's
because at the collegiate level, Jim, I don't know if you're aware, she'll be wrestling a different style or form of, you know,
It's
wrestling.
a lot more on your feet.
It is more on your feet, and the scoring on the mat happens a lot quicker. And so there's different techniques. You don't have to hold them to get a count. It's
Okay.
just roll them.
Oh,
right?
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You roll them. As long as their back exposes, you're getting 2 points every time. So yeah, so she'll be wrestling freestyle. And like the edge of the mat wrestling, if you force your opponent out of bounds to step out, you get a point, and they bring you back to the middle.
Oh, you get a point.
You
by
get
forcing
a
them out.
point for forcing them out. Yeah.
Wow.
So a lot of wrestling happens in the middle now. And so she'll learn a whole nother set of skills, a lot of new strategies and things collegiately. So yeah. So now Chris and Heidi got new things to learn too.
Hey, I always need a new challenge.
Yeah. That'll be great.
Oh man. Yeah, all I had heard is that college wrestling was more on your feet, which I was not very good. Like I said, how my coach usually was like, well, if against a good guy, you'll probably lose 2 points right away, but get that far side roll and hopefully some pinning points after that.
There you go.
Yeah. You also, I'm gonna go to you here on this, and you're probably shy about it or humble, but what was you got a big award during this tournament, the state tournament, didn't you?
Well, it wasn't so much an award, Jim, as it was a recognition. It was my 25-year coaching award in South Dakota.
Okay.
And so yeah, there's kind of a funny backstory to it. One of my good friends, who's the head coach at Chamberlain, John Donovan, John got his last year, the year prior in 23, and so I was congratulating him, telling him, nice job, John. You survived, a quarter of a century of coaching in South Dakota. And he gets this puzzled look, and he looks at me and he goes, Coach, he says, shouldn't you be getting yours too? And I was like, I started doing the math. I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Because he remembered that he and I had started coaching at the same time. I was down in Alcester and he was out in Hardin County, and we met right away that first year and got to know each other, whatever, through competing against one another. And we were not good. I was coaching at Alcester where we were not good, and I was envious of what I saw at his program. And so I'd walked up to the state tournament and introduced myself and told him how impressed I was with his team. So that's how we had first met. So anyway, last year, John goes, Jeremy, I think you were supposed to get yours too this year. And I go, John, you're right. So long story short, I made sure I got my application in this year. And yes, so I did get recognized
Got the recognition
for 25 years of coaching.
Just as a side note, I'm real good friends with Paul and Leanne Haish down there
Oh, you are?
at Alcester. Yeah.
Yeah, so I taught with Leanne
Yep.
when I was at Alcester, and I've known Paul and Leanne forever.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So, what are you going to miss the most about high school wrestling, and what are you looking forward to the most on college wrestling?
I'm gonna miss the team. I'm gonna miss my coach. And I think I've probably gotten too comfortable in the room.
Good perspective.
I know that the new room, I'm gonna I've got a lot of, I don't know, I have to work my way up again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be new, and I have to establish myself. I have to show that I'm worthy of being there. But I'm excited to get some new partners. I'm excited to learn some new things. Yeah.
Yeah, because it'll definitely be expanded a lot
Mm-hmm.
because the best of the best will be going there and you'll be together. And, you know, you always hear the stories about, you know, like in the football realm or whatever sports, you get done with high school, say if you're the superstar, sometimes people get hit in the knees for the next level and they have to do the thing you're talking about. So you're going into it with your eyes wide open and I have no doubt that you'll do good.
Yeah, Sarah's ready for the challenge. She's ready for the next level. I would say, you know, I've taught her everything I think I know, and she's soaked all that up. So I'm happy she's not back for another year because I don't know what I'd teach her anymore. I got no more to teach her. No, she's going to do amazing. As a coach, I'm very excited to see you, you know, go on. I'm excited to get to cheer for you. I'm excited to, you know, see you compete and, you know, just continue to hopefully love the sport and grow in it and, you know, continue to capitalize on these gifts that God's given you. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, the learning thing will be amazing. Like you said, wrestling different people. You're going to get so much more and different exposure. This was great, the exposure that you had here, but at college level, you know, like surrounding yourself and wrestling people that are better than you.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about the iron sharpens iron and what Kiara was talking about with getting beat. She'd have her bad days, but then that other person got to have their good days. But coming back from that, you're going to get a lot of cool experiences wrestling different people.
Well,
right
she's
off
been
the
the top dog in our practice room for the last 2 or 3 years, right? I mean, in our lower weights, she's the one that a lot of her teammates kind of avoid, I would say, at times.
Really?
Yeah, well, because they know if they're going to wrestle with Sarah, number one, when we are drilling moves and doing things, Sarah always works hard, drills hard. So her teammates know that if they're going with Sarah, they're going to get probably 10 times more tired than they would on a regular day with another teammate. And so that's why they avoid her at times because they don't want to work that hard. And if it's live goes, they know that Sarah's not going to take it easy on them either, so they're probably going to get whooped on. But she's always been a great teammate. She's always led by example. You know, when a teammate of hers gets done wrestling with her, they know that they've had a good practice. They know that they've gotten better, right? They've improved. But what's been great for Sarah is being kind of the top dog in your practice room is you get to kind of choose, right? I mean, and Finley has been, this past season was her primary partner. And so both her success and Finley's success has a lot to do with each other, right? Just them helping each other grow, you know, in their wrestling skills and spiritually and mentally. I mean, just the whole thing, because their relationship was way deeper than just those 2 hours in our practice room after school. I mean, Sarah picked Finley up, bring her to morning weights, bring her to morning workouts. You know, we were wrestling, drilling in the mornings a lot during the season. So, so for Sarah, it's been very unique and cool that, you know, I mean, you had to kind of sense that, right? Like these last couple of years, you know, the center of our practice room, like the dead middle center is what I'm talking about. That's where Sarah and her group typically would practice, right? Center of the room. And it's kind of like, you know, and this is probably unique for you to hear, Chris. It's kind of pack mentality a little bit, right? The leaders are out in front, right, of your pack, and then you've got, you know, middle of the pack people, and you've got stragglers, right? And so in a wrestling room, typically it's your leaders, the leaders of the pack are in the middle, and they're, you know, they're the hunters, they're the killers, right? And then on the outskirts are the ones that are the pups, you know, still trying to learn things, still trying to figure things out, still not sure they want to be in the middle of that room where things get really aggressive and get really intense. Because that's where I am most of the time, is right in the middle of the room, you know, doing my coaching and barking out instructions and so forth. So, but she's been so integral in our growth of our team as a teammate, as a leader, as a wolf, right? Losing her next year, I have concerns, right, of what the team dynamics will look like. It's not easy to replace a Sarah Schroeder. It's just not. We have bodies. We're lucky we have bodies, but her mentality and her experience and her toughness is just impossible. And so I know Finley's a little concerned about, like, okay, who's going to come be a wolf with me? You know what I mean? Type of thing. So, but she'll pull people up, and we'll find a way to move on. But it's been neat. And neat's not the word. It's been phenomenal for me to get that opportunity to coach somebody like you. And I probably wrote this in your card as well, but I just want you to know, like, how much you mean to me. Chris, I can't hardly tell you, man. It's kind of like she's my daughter too, in a way, and I don't want that to sound disrespectful at all. No. But our relationship is like, I have 5 seniors that are graduating, but Sarah has found her way into my heart more so than any athlete I've probably ever coached. And it's very gratifying to get to build those relationships with kids like this. And, it's awesome for me to get to see her go on and do bigger and better things. And I will always be your biggest fan. You know that, kiddo? Like, I will always be your biggest fan. And I'm not talking about just wrestling. Like, I'm talking about your life and your career and your relationships and, your family, whatever you choose to do. Like, I will always be here for you. And, I know you know that, but I'm not afraid to say that either on a podcast. Like, we've spent a lot of time together, and I'm excited to see her go. But you've raised one heck of a neat young lady, and she's had a big, obviously I'd like to say I've had a big impact on her, but I told you when I wrote you in my card, like, you've had just as big of an impact on me. And, and that's kudos to you. Like, that shows how big of a person you are, and way more than wrestling. We've impacted each other spiritually, because of our faith in God and our belief. And that's been big for me. That's helped me grow. And that's important, way more important than double legs and single legs and high crotches and things like that. But, it's been a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see our team continue to grow and get bigger. And I know Sarah will always follow the team, and especially with Finley on it, she'll do the same thing as Kiara when time permits with her college schedule and stuff. I know that she's still going to want to get her hands on Finley, and teach her things. She'll come back from college, most likely in the summertime, maybe for a summer or two. And I'm sure Finley will probably be the first person she'll find to teach her the new things that she's been learning. And that's exciting for me to see as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Sarah, if you had any thoughts of that when you come home for Christmas break, get back in that room.
I definitely will. And then I also wanted to add, like, I love the sport, but if I had terrible coaches, like, I've had terrible coaches before, but he makes me want to go in. Like I text him, like, hey, you want to wrestle? Like, and I've had some really bad coaches off season. I get screamed at sometimes, but when I come back to the room, I always have fun. And even though it's hard, I can find, like, it's fun for me when, like, I'm with him. Not necessarily off season when I'm getting screamed at, but that's why our team is so big, because, like, he draws people in because he's such a good coach. And he doesn't make it about winning or losing. He just makes it about the learning and the fun, and he makes you want to be there.
Yeah, that was a testament like no other. That was amazing. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks.
Appreciate that. And Dad, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I wish we could take credit for raising, Sarah and all these wonderful qualities she has. But Sarah and both her kids are God's gift to us.
Yeah.
And we just, we're blessed.
Yeah. Amen.
So just as a side note, how's Noah doing?
Good. He's been through his first season of college track and learned a lot, had some success, was part of a winning relay team at the indoor NAIA championship. So
Perfect.
yeah, he's done well, and it's good to have that first year of college kind of under your belt, and so he's kind of reflecting on that.
So now you're coming up on your first year of empty nesters. What do you think of that?
Well, it's always each year you get older, life gets better, and it's not that.
I believe that.
Yeah, we love our kids. We know they need to spread their wings, and they'll still be coming home for holidays and when they can, and they're going to go out and conquer the world. So
Perfect.
it's exciting.
That's great. Well, good luck in the future, Sarah. I'm sure we'll see you here and there when you come back and over at church and stuff. So, but yeah, thank you guys. I really appreciate you doing this. Appreciate everything that you said. Taking me back into my little time capsule a few times. So sorry I had to interject some of my own stuff.
Thanks, Jim.
And I definitely am straight on with you on not really knowing much about your next opponent. Just take your best. And one thing I'll say on that is my first match in the state tournament, I was 16th. I was the last dude. I wrestled the number 1 seed. I had no idea. I never knew hardly anybody and wrestled them 6-4.
Oh.
And after that, sophomore whooped my butt. I was done. I was totally spent. But when you were talking about that brought me back to that. And it's good having some knowledge, but I like the way you were doing it of bring your best.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who the opponent is.
Yeah, exactly. You bet. Well, thank you, Pastor. Really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
You guys too. And thank you, Sarah. Good luck in the future.
Thank you.
And maybe we'll get together to watch this for the first time together. I think that'd be kind of fun.
That would be fun.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
I was going down after another 10 minutes or something. It's hard to maintain good posture.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
It's a constant theme with those.
Well, they're not uncomfortable. I think it's just maintaining the same posture. It's a little tricky.
Yeah, because you kind of just start to slouch,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Your shoulders start to come in and your wrists. And
Yep, that's right.
That was good.
My butt hurts.
Yeah, those things are the best on
My legs are sticking to the chair.
I've got like the shakes, Finn.
My ears are sweaty.
Are they? I felt like my leg was shaking. I don't know why.
It's like, man, if it wasn't for winter, I'd be bummed out that wrestling season isn't right now. But I want to enjoy summer first.
You want some ASMR?
Some what?
ASMR.
What's that?
They like eat in front of mics.
Oh.
They take big bites.